After the honeymoon of the gods, Themis left Zeus. The world is still full of injustice, and Themis is worried about it. In the years to come, she will travel the continents, seas, and islands of Olympus, bringing justice to all beings. Themis made a pact with Zeus that she would return when Zeus launched a war against Cronus. Themis vowed that she would bring the law, justice and the reputation of Zeus to all the creatures in the world. When the war breaks out, she will return with the evil sword and stand beside Zeus. Themis leaves. Zeus looked at her beautiful and noble back, knowing that her divine power would go one step further after this journey. She is one of the most powerful goddesses among the later Olympian gods. At this moment, a timid voice sounded. "Honorable Lord God. The humble creatures you have saved are here. Please look at me." Zeus lowered his head and found that under the clouds and in the ocean, a mermaid was holding her lovely daughter and looking at him. It is a mermaid pure pearl. During the battle between Zeus and the sirens, Zeus's thunder smashed the island into powder. The mermaid sank into the sea, and she kept watching Zeus in the sea, waiting for Themis to leave. She was a little afraid of Themis, even though Themis gave her a fair trial. The little mermaid in her hand seemed very happy to see Zeus, waving her chubby little hands. "Great God King. Thank you for saving my life and my daughter's life." Mermaid Chunju's delicate face was full of anticipation, and there was a hint of timidity in this anticipation. She bit her lip and said softly, "Great God, I have grown legs." Zeus looked at the mermaid floating in the sea and fell silent. When a mermaid falls in love with a male creature, she will grow legs and be able to live ashore, gaining divine power and near immortal life at the level of an angel. And if male beings deceive their love, they will turn into foam and disappear into the sea. So mermaids rarely fall in love with other creatures, and when they fall in love, they will be loyal to each other forever. Great God, I think I fell in love with you. After you forced out the truth with your wisdom, and after you smashed the siren into powder with thunder, I fell in love hopelessly. The great God, please have pity on me. This humble creature, without your love, would turn into foam and disappear into this sea. The mermaid's heart jumped, and she used an almost pleading voice, "Great God, I don't need too much promise from you. I just need a little bit is enough. I saw you and Themis held a grand ceremony in the air. Godly marriage, that wedding was so beautiful that it made my heart tremble, but it also made me despair to death. After seeing that wedding, I hugged my daughter and sank into the sea, and my body gradually turned into foam. But I suddenly realized that I have not yet got your clear answer. So I desperately swam back from the ocean. Mermaid Chunju mustered up her courage. Great God, if I want to die in bubbles, I must at least hear your rejection. Will you reject me? You are a great God. I don't need all your love, I just a little bit is enough." Zeus looked at the merman. Mermaid pure beads are still pure. This group can give birth to little mermaids by themselves. Mermaid, you got what you wanted. Lightning flashed from Zeus's fingertips, and a barely visible ray of lightning flashed between Mermaid Chunju's eyebrows. She trembled all over, and suddenly, she felt that her body that had turned into foam was recovering, and at the same time, surging divine power surged from her heart. In an instant, she possessed the power of a divine envoy at its peak. Angels, demigods, lower gods, middle gods, upper gods, main gods, god kings, primitive gods, chaotic gods, and supreme gods. Thank you, great God, thank you. The heavy stone in her heart fell to the ground, and Chunju cried out, as if 100,000 flowers bloomed in her heart. She felt happy, and this happiness made her cry like rain. Zeus looked at the mermaid and already had a plan in mind. Mermaids are the largest group in the ocean, uncountable. Their strength is weak, but if countless mermaids are gathered together, it will be a terrifying force. Mermaid Pure Pearl will be extremely loyal to herself, because if Zeus withdraws her love, she will turn into foam in the sea. Mermaid Pure Pearl, Zeus' majestic voice sounded. Since you have fallen in love with me, I have also given you 100,000th of my love. I order you to become the king of mermaids. You should exert your divine power and wisdom and try your best to conquer your group. You should become the king of the ocean, queen of mermaids among them, ruling billions of mermaids. I'll wish you the best of luck. Zeus felt the divine power of the mermaid's pure pearl, and she had touched the pinnacle of the envoy, imprisoned by a vague shackle. An ancient and mysterious voice sounded from mermaid Chunju's ear, and she saw Zeus take out a silver holy bell. The holy bell swayed in the palm of Zeus, and the majestic, mysterious, and pure divine power condensed in Zeus' fingertips. He felt the divine power of the mermaid resonate intensely with the divine power of the holy bell of awakening. Mermaid Pure Pearl, wake up! Zeus's fingertips popped out, majestic, and the ancient mysterious divine power rushed to the mermaid. The mermaid was startled, and suddenly her divine power, which was as calm as water, surged like a gust of wind, like a storm on the sea. Boom! The mermaid heard the sound of shattering, and a phantom of sea blue shackles appeared in front of her eyes. The shackles suddenly turned into ice and shattered into powder. There was a burst of waves, and 12 huge sea snakes rose from the sea, shaking huge waves. In the seawater, a crown made of coral, shells, aquatic plants, inlaid with sapphires and pearls floated and landed on top of her head. Mermaid Chunju felt her divine power surging, like a storm in the sea, 10 times stronger than before. Chunju, these 12 sea snakes are your mounts. I order you to conquer your tribe in the name of Zeus and become the Mermaid Queen. The Mermaid Pure Pearl will definitely rule my group. I will give birth to a son of God for you, and I will lead 1 billion mermaids, and I will stand up for you and praise the prestige of the god King Zeus. Mermaid Pure Pearl swears an oath in the wind and waves. With the help of Zeus, the Mermaid Pure Pearl passed 2 levels in a row and became a demigod in 1 step. The mermaid's body already had divine power fluctuations, and Zeus was looking forward to what kind of divine son she would give birth to for him. Zeus sank into the sea and went to the depths of the ocean with the mermaid. Together they explore the ancient ruins in the ocean, watch the volcanoes and abysses in the sea, and play among the golden fish. 6 months later, Zeus sits in his thundercloud, looking at the hanging garden full of birds and flowers, and full of exotic animals and beautiful grass. Zeus's previous thunderbolt shattered the island in this vast garden, but the rest of the garden remained intact. This hanging garden is condensed from pure divine power, which is of great benefit to Zeus' divine power. After splitting the island and marrying Themis, Zeus obtained the mermaid Pure Pearl. Together they spent 6 months under the sea. 6 months later, Chunju took up the spear, bow and arrow in her hand to fulfill her oath, carry out the order of Zeus, conquer her group, and become the queen of mermaids. Zeus looked at the floating garden under the thundercloud. His terrifying, violent and dark divine power diffused, shrouded the garden, and extracted the divine power from it. The majestic divine power surged out crazily and gathered in the divine body of Zeus. Divine power is like a storm, whistling and spinning in the sky, and Zeus is the center eye of this storm. What an abundance of divine power! The richness of divine power can be divided into several stages. The weakest is filaments, followed by condensed clusters, followed by diffuse atmosphere, followed by the formation of many visions, followed by condensed rain of divine power, followed by condensed divine power storm, and then divine power condensed into entities. The huge garden condensed by divine power is extremely precious. The divine power contained in this huge hanging garden is enough for a high god to be promoted from the 1st rank to the 3rd rank. It's just that Zeus's practice of the mysteries of the divine breath of chaos requires boundless divine power. Zeus reckoned that if he absorbed all of this garden, he could barely reach the peak of the 1st order. Zeus drew the power of this hanging garden, and the garden turned a dull lime gray piece by piece, and finally shattered into powder. The original creatures in the hanging garden felt that the end was coming. They fled here in a panic. Boom! Boom! Zeus felt the thunder in his body, and the source of his divine power was evolved. 1 year. 2 years. 3 years. 10 years have passed, and the former island with singing birds and fragrant flowers, full of exotic flowers and rare plants, has become a dead and silent world. It all turned lime gray, and when the wind blew, it turned into flying dust and sand, floating into the air. Boom! The sound of breaking came, and as the last trace of divine power was extracted by Zeus and condensed in the body, the entire garden collapsed, and lime gray powder floated above the sea. I didn't expect that the divine power contained in this sky garden would be so majestic that it would allow me to directly surpass the 1st level of the upper god and be promoted to the 2nd level. Zeus opened his eyes, terrifying lightning wrapped around him, and the source of his divine power turned into 300,000 dark thunderbolts. Zeus felt that he didn't need to use the thunder spear when he was fighting the siren now. As long as he opened his eyes, the lightning would swallow her up. Next, with a thought in Zeus' mind, a shield appeared in front of him. This shield is bronze in color with simple lines. Its divine power was so solid that Zeus would feel at ease whenever he held the shield in his hand. Aegis of Zeus. This is the strongest shield in this god's domain, and there are 16 shackles in it. The divine power in Zeus' body was boiling, extremely powerful. Thunder flashed in his eyes, and Aegis shone with light, covering Zeus. Zeus stood in front of the gate, looking at the huge ancient gate in front of him. All artifacts have shackles, and if you want to exert the power of an artifact, you must break the shackles. They are called shackles, but each has a different vision. The shackles of the Aegis are heavy gates. A magnificent ancient wooden door stood in front of Zeus. Zeus exhaled divine breath, the air was entwined with thunder, and he blew the wooden door over. The second door is a black iron door. The thunder in Zeus' eyes burned, and the iron gate burned without wind, turning into ashes. The third door is a bronze door, which Zeus smashed into powder with one punch. The fourth gate is the stone gate, the fifth gate is the silver gate, and the sixth gate is the golden gate. Zeus smashed it to pieces with one punch. The seventh gate is a 13-fold golden gate, and the eighth gate is a 666 golden gate. Zeus mobilized his divine power and smashed them all with one punch. The ninth gate appeared in front of Zeus. It had only 3 gates in the shape of a triangle. A chain made of divine power connected the 3 gates and was indestructible. Zeus turned the thunder into a giant sword, split the chain with one sword, and the gate collapsed. The 10th gate has 3,000 layers. Before the 3,000 golden gates, there is a huge river and a huge mountain. Zeus steamed the river dry with a thunderbolt, split the giant mountain, turned the thunder into a thunder spear, and pierced through 3,000 golden gates with one spear. The 11th gate is guarded by 2 ancient dragons, each with 10 tails, and the dragon tails are intertwined to form the 11th gate. Zeus used 30% of his divine power to slaughter 2 ancient dragons and smash the 11th gate. Stepping over the dragon corpse, the 12th gate appeared in front of Zeus. Stepping over the dragon corpse, Zeus came to the 12th gate. In front of you is the black gravel, and the vast black sea, every drop of it is pure black. The moment Zeus stepped here, the sea surged up, and all the sea water floated up drop by drop, and the entire ocean formed a huge sea gate. Zeus mobilized 60% of his divine power and turned the thunder into a giant bow. The golden giant bow illuminates the entire Black Sea, like a red sun rising from the sea. The golden arrow pierced through the sea gate. The sea was defeated, it let out a terrifying roar, and the sea water fell and turned into a whirlpool. Zeus jumped into the vortex, and he saw the next door. There is no distinction between up, down, left, and right, and there is a clear blue sky all around. The sky in all directions suddenly activated at the moment of his arrival. The sky below rises, and the sky above falls. The sky formed a cage, surrounded Zeus heavily, and squeezed him into mud. Zeus mobilized 90% of the divine power in his body, and his body became extremely huge in an instant. Zeus stepped on the sky, held it up with his hands, and thunder shone all over him. He supports the falling sky. I don't know how long it has supported the falling sky, but it was completely shattered under the divine power of Zeus. In the end, it became nothingness with nothing. Zeus came to the next door. This is a quaint secret room with a stove burning brightly. In the secret room, there are 2 mirrors that reflect each other. Zeus walked into the middle of the 2 mirrors, and countless himself were reflected in the 2 mirrors. Zeus mobilized 90% of his divine power and hit the mirror, and countless himself in the mirror also mobilized the same divine power to fight back. The stronger the divine power of Zeus, the stronger the counterattack he received. Zeus was trapped in this secret room for 3 days. 3 days later, he summoned a dark cloud that obscured the mirror. The black cloud covered the mirror. Zeus's own mirror image did not appear, and the 2 mirrors were penetrated by Zeus. After the mirror shattered, Zeus came to the next door. In nothingness, there is a lonely narrow door. It's low and shabby. When Zeus approached the gate, the gate flew back, never to be touched. Zeus mobilized 120% of his divine power, and his thunder turned into chains, binding the narrow door tightly. The narrow gate finally stopped retreating, and Zeus was able to come to it. But it is too small for the narrow door to enter. Zeus mobilized his divine power to make himself the size of sand, and the door became even smaller. Zeus became huge, and finally he became as huge as a mountain and a planet, and the door also became bigger, but it was still impossible to enter it. Zeus was trapped here for 3 years, thinking hard before the narrow gate. In the void, there is only the narrow gate. Zeus's thunder bound it tightly, but it couldn't get in. The narrow door was faintly drawing Zeus' divine power, as if time had also lost its meaning. One day, the narrow door slowly opened, and the sky was filled with rays of light. A huge spear flew out from the door. It carried a turbulent divine power and sank into the ground. The tail was trembling, and the entire void was also trembling. Seeing the huge spear, Zeus realized in his heart, "This is the strongest spear of Olympus, named the Spear of Freedom." Aegis, the shield of Zeus, is the strongest shield of Olympus. The strongest shield should belong to the creature with the strongest spear and cannot be separated. Because if the strongest spear meets the strongest shield, they will never be able to tell the winner. Drop. Options emerge at this moment. Option 1. Use the strongest spear to break through the narrow gate. Reward: Vial of Chaos. Option 2. Summon the thunder, destroy your own god's soul, and leave the illusion of Aegis. Reward: Resurrection Steel. After looking at the options, Zeus was convinced. The creatures who can lift the strongest spear are qualified to have the strongest Aegis. The option is to encourage yourself, burn your divine power, raise your divine spear, and break through this narrow door. Moreover, the rewarded Bottle of Chaos also made Zeus envious. The Bottle of Chaos contains the majestic and boundless divine power of chaos. The divine power of chaos is invisible and intangible. It can be transformed into all things, and it can also directly strengthen one's own divine power. The Bottle of Chaos is the highest artifact of the same level as the Bottle of Life in the hands of Earth Mother Gaia, which contains the water of life and the seeds of all things. As for option 2, Zeus did not consider it. This option is a way out of this illusion. Zeus mobilized all the divine power in his body, reaching the nearest limit of 150% of the divine power. Zeus' golden hair turned into black lightning, and 300,000 black thunderbolts exploded from his side. Lightning and thunder shone in the void, and the void shattered into pieces. Zeus methodically mobilized all his divine power, and finally, concentrated it on his right hand. Zeus' right hand became a black sphere, and the void fragments shattered by lightning were violently drawn into his right hand. Divine power is burning every inch, and Zeus is at the peak of his fighting power. When he burns out, his own immortal life ends. But if you can break through this narrow door, Zeus pulled out the spear on the ground. On the divine spear, the ancient power of chaos is circulating, and it changes into a golden spear, a rough wooden spear, and a thick stone spear. This strongest divine spear has the shadows and illusions of all the spears in this god's domain. Zeus raised his spear high. The weight of the spear is also changing. At this moment, the strength of Zeus is enough to stir up the entire Mount Olympus with one finger. However, the weight of the spear was far beyond Zeus' imagination. The moment he lifted the spear, the heavy force almost caused Zeus' divine power to collapse. And in the next moment, the weight of the spear became so light that Zeus believed that even the gentlest breeze could lift it. All of Zeus' divine power was condensed on the divine spear, which was changing in shape and weight, and he threw it heavily towards the narrow gate. With the thunder of Zeus, the spear of the god sank into the narrow gate. Inside the narrow gate, the sun was shining brightly, and then, infinite divine power poured out to Zeus. The divine power merged into Zeus's divine body, and Zeus's own rank was about to break through in an instant. Drip, the selection is complete. You get the Bottle of Chaos. Infinite divine power gushed out from the narrow gate, and then the narrow gate shattered, and Zeus left the illusion of Aegis and returned to his own thundercloud. This divine power continued to pour out, and the source of divine power that Zeus had just burned was repaired bit by bit. The divine power continued to wash away Zeus' divine body, and Zeus felt his divine power surge. 10%, 20%, 30%, 90%, 10%. Zeus closed his eyes and looked at himself. This majestic divine power not only completely restored the burning source of divine power, but also allowed him to rise to the first level. The black thunder in Zeus's body has risen to 500,000, and the god rank has entered the third rank of the upper god. A horrible breath came from the bottle of chaos. Zeus grabbed the bottle of chaos from the thundercloud. This bottle is almost transparent in color, and countless black substances swim in it like life. The divine power of chaos is the most precious divine power in the world. After the god of chaos disappears, it almost no longer appears. Only some will remain in the deepest part of the abyss and the edge of the universe. Moreover, the divine power of chaos has no form and is extremely malleable. Zeus can directly transform it into a black thunderbolt to strengthen his own divine power, strengthen his divine body, or turn it into a weapon. Zeus put away the bottle of chaos. He has just advanced to the third rank of the upper god, and needs to consolidate his rank, so he will not be able to use this precious divine power for the time being. Zeus grabbed Aegis, the Aegis, and the strongest spear from the thundercloud. The strongest shield. Zeus grasped Aegis, realizing it in his heart. He originally thought that Aegis could withstand the full blow of the god king, but now, he understood the meaning of the strongest shield. The strongest Aegis can withstand any attack 9 billion times. It doesn't matter whether the attack came from a butterfly, a bird, a god king, or the supreme god from other gods. After 9 billion hits, it shatters. However, when Zeus got Aegis, he clearly saw 16 shackles and 16 gates. And the narrow gate in the void is the 15th. Perhaps the 16th shackle will not appear until the divine power is stronger and the divine rank is higher in the future. Zeus put Aegis into the thundercloud and looked at the spear in front of him. The spear still exudes divine power, but its divine power is erratic. As before, its shape is constantly changing, and its weight has changed from as heavy as a giant mountain to as light as a feather. Zeus grabbed the spear, and he looked at the volcano in the distance, with killing intent in his heart. The moment he picked up the divine spear, ice burst out, and the extremely cold ice instantly condensed the surrounding ocean. Zeus relaxed his mind, and his killing intent dissipated. Immediately, the divine spear dissipated from its ice form. It began to change its figure continuously. Zeus looked at the flock of birds in the distance. The killing intent surged in my heart again. The divine spear instantly changed into 3,000 spears, and its spears were extremely sharp. Zeus felt that the moment the spear was thrown, the spear would attack the flock of birds from all directions, making it impossible for all the birds to escape. Zeus put down the spears, and the 3,000 spears disappeared and turned into illusions again. The birds screamed and fell into the sea. Weak creatures could not bear the killing intent in Zeus' eyes. Zeus understood in his heart that the strongest spear will automatically change into the most suitable shape and weight according to the enemy, making every blow a fatal blow. Worthy of his name, Spear of Liberty. After checking the harvest this time, Zeus continued to practice the mysteries of the divine breath of chaos, completely absorbing all the divine power gushing out from the narrow gate, and consolidated the divine power. I don't know how long it has passed. Zeus closed his eyes, and lightning flashed around him. The divine power is consolidated, extremely powerful, and has firmly stabilized the third level of the upper god. Moreover, Zeus practiced the mysteries of the divine breath of chaos, and his divine power was several times stronger than that of the gods of the same rank. Zeus is confident that, except for the god king Cronus and a few primitive gods such as Tartarus, there are not many creatures in this god's domain who dare to challenge him. However, there is still work to be done. Zeus's divine knowledge shot out in all directions frantically. Got you. Among the thunderclouds, Zeus suddenly opened his thunder-filled eyes. He saw that under the deep sea, thousands of miles away, a deep-sea hydra was greedily devouring the mermaid in the sea. He is the hydra that was blinded by Themis when he tried the mermaid on the island. Terrifying killing intent permeated Zeus's eyes, chilling his bones. Mermaid Xingqian is now his own. He hurt Mermaid Xingqian, and he once provoked Themis. What's more, he once felt the divine power of Zeus. If his snake mouth was dishonest and leaked out, let Cronus know. Cronus would definitely kill him and kill himself. Zeus doesn't want to be an enemy of Cronus just yet, he still needs to condense his divine power. The moment Hydra fled, Zeus's divine knowledge locked him, but he was frightened, and after escaping, he dug up the 10,000-meter silt on the bottom of the ocean and covered himself deeply, making it difficult for Zeus to locate. Is it finally out? Zeus smiled, and he drove the thundercloud and rushed towards the Hydra. The Hydra, which was devouring greedily in the deep sea, suddenly felt that the end was approaching, and a terrifying killing intent struck. The deep-sea Hydra still remembers the experience on the island that day. He is the king of this vast deep sea. If anyone dared to challenge him, he would open his bloody mouth and swallow the enemy in one gulp. That day, a siren came to the door. She calmly said to Hydra, "Let him preside over a trial," and gave him countless sapphires and pearls. Hydra laughed wildly. How could he be interested in such trivial matters? He opened his bloody mouth and was about to swallow the siren, but he heard the siren say that he was the daughter of the snake, the daughter of Echidna. Of course he has heard of the famous Hydra, the daughter of the 100 snakes, and he felt that the siren did have her blood. Hydra then agreed to the trial, promising that the sirens would win. The trial went well, and the lonely mermaid had no power, but she still refused to admit the crime and gave up the child. Soon, the mermaid will be beaten to death by the Hydra, but the arrival of the goddess changed everything. Whenever thinking of this, Hydra felt a burst of fear in his heart, as if 10,000 mosquitoes were biting his heart. Themis's power was weak, and the Hydra sensed it the moment she came, but suddenly, a terrifying power condensed on her sword. That divine power is so dark and violent. From then on, Hydra felt that a pair of eyes were watching him. Hydra was frightened. He fled into the sea, and dived into the deepest part of the ocean. Hydra used its teeth and skull to dig out 10,000 meters of mud, and buried itself deeply in it. The fear of death enveloped the whole body. The Hydra has been hiding until now, until the hunger in its belly can no longer be tolerated. What's even more hateful is that the sapphires and pearls given to him by the siren turned into poisonous snakes. There were countless mermaids floating in front of my eyes, and the Hydra swallowed 12 of them in one gulp. The mermaid's screams and blood stained the sea area, and he felt the hunger in his belly lessen. Suddenly, that familiar, terrifying breath of death enveloped him again. The Hydra shuddered all over, and this fear made his heart beat wildly, making him extremely uncomfortable. Where are you?" the Hydra roared, and a huge amount of seawater exploded around him, forming a huge wave of 10,000 meters high. Suddenly, a huge light shone on the sea surface. The Hydra emerged from the sea, and he raised his head in fear, and saw Zeus driving the thundercloud in the sky. Hydra saw the unquestionable majesty of the god-king exuding Zeus's body, and there were countless dark and violent thunders behind him. The murderous intent in his eyes seemed to condense into substance, so cold that Hydra felt like his blood was about to freeze. The only fighting will left in his heart was destroyed. Hydra lowered his head involuntarily, trembling all over. "Great God! I have never slandered your God's name, nor have I done anything wrong. I am willing to be your servant and drive you. I only hope that your anger can dissipate." Hydra found himself in tears. Since he was born in this world, he has been devouring and killing, and his life has been poured with blood. "I'm actually crying out of fear." Looking at the submissive Hydra on the sea, Zeus looked indifferent. From the very beginning, Zeus never considered forgiving him. The beast. The indifferent voice of Zeus resounded through the sea and in the heart of the Hydra, like 100,000 thunders sounding at the same time. "I pronounce you dead." Terrifying divine power diffused from Zeus's side, and he undeniably announced that he had come to the heart of Hydra. Then black lightning fell from the sky, splitting the Hydra into powder. Drip. Mission accomplished. You have obtained the secret of chaos body forging. The system beeps. Before this trip, Zeus chose to practice at the junction of the ocean and the abyss. After the Hydra is eliminated, the trip is considered to be over, and the rewards will be issued. Ancient runes poured into Zeus's mind, and in an instant, he mastered this mystery. Zeus felt this mystery in his heart carefully, and was surprised. The art of body forging no longer exists in this god's domain. Even though Zeus's bloodline is extremely noble, he only inherited the Titan's profound meaning. The Titan profound truth can condense divine power and cross the divine ranks, and the divine body will become stronger and stronger as the divine ranks are crossed. But that's just a side effect of being promoted to the god rank. Even Zeus, including the god king Cronus and the noble 12 titans, does not have the profound meaning of body forging. In this god's domain, perhaps only a few chaos gods who have survived to this day still master the art of body forging, and even this mystery is the only art of body forging. Moreover, this chaotic body forging secret is of the same origin as the chaotic god's breath secret and is extremely precious. The two can promote and improve each other, and the cycle is endless. The divine body is strong and can accommodate more majestic divine power and condense a more powerful source of divine power. More powerful divine power, in turn, will also promote the toughness of the divine body. Invincible. In Zeus' heart, this mystery meant invincibility. Zeus sank into the sea, created an illusion with thunderclouds, and began to practice the mysteries of chaos body forging. In ancient times, the world was created, and countless chaotic runes born in the chaos emerged in the heart of Zeus. Their twisted appearance is indescribable. Zeus felt his divine body gradually become stronger, and pure power emerged. He felt that he could lift a mountain with his fingers without mobilizing his divine power. The secrets of chaos body training are extremely profound, and it will take countless days to cultivate to great success. Thinking of this, Zeus grabbed the bottle of chaos from the thundercloud. The power of chaos circulates in it. The power of chaos is invisible and can be shaped at will. It can be directly used to strengthen one's own divine body. Zeus opened the bottle of chaos and released a ray of chaos power. The power of chaos is integrated into the body of Zeus. Suddenly, boom! The powerful divine power exploded centered on Zeus, and the sea water was violently pushed away, forming a 10,000-meter void around Zeus. 10%, 20%, 30%, 90%, 10%. Zeus' divine body suddenly shattered, turning into black particles, then reorganized, and pure power burst out. The first level of chaos body forging profound truth has arrived. Come again. Zeus felt that the power in his body was infinite, and the strength of the divine body drove the divine power to become more pure and thick. Zeus opened the bottle of chaos again, grabbed dozens of strands of chaotic divine power, and integrated them into his body. Boom! The divine power of chaos merged into Zeus' body, and the surrounding temperature rose sharply. In the deep sea, countless seawater instantly transpired into air, forming a huge air vortex, rushing straight from the bottom of the sea to the sea surface. Above the ocean, 10,000-meter high waves exploded, covering the sky, and thunder and lightning. The horror looks like the end of the world. The second level of chaos body forging mysteries, come on. Zeus' divine body spanned 2 levels, and terrifying power gushed out. This level of power. According to records, there are 2 famous Hercules in this god's domain. One is Hercules, the son of Zeus. He once wielded a huge club and knocked down the dragon-tailed genie who was climbing along the mountains in an attempt to overthrow the court of Zeus in the Battle of the Genies. He also lifted up the son of the earth, the giant Antaeus, and strangled him to death. Antaeus is one of the many descendants of the Earth Mother Gaia, a symbol of the power of the earth. As long as Antaeus still has his feet on the earth, his mother, Gaia, the body of the earth, can give him infinite strength. The giant Antaeus, who possessed such power, was lifted up by Hercules, and he was lifted from the earth, and he was strangled alive. Another god with great power is Atlas, who holds the sky. Atlas, and a famous brother, is the fire stealer, Prometheus. Their father was one of the 12 titans, Iapetus, pillar of the west. The mother is also the 12 titans, Clymene the golden horn. In the Titan War where Zeus overthrew Cronus, Prometheus sided with Zeus, while Atlas sided with his parents and the god king Cronus. After the war, Zeus punished Atlas in the westernmost part of the world, holding up the sky with his hands and shoulders forever. Thunder blazed around Zeus, and he felt his strength was boundless. With only the power of the divine body, Zeus is confident that he can lift the son of the earth and prop up the sky like Hercules or Atlas. And far surpass them. At the junction of the ocean and the abyss, in the dense fog, there are countless monsters condensed by divine power. They are the perfect nourishment for the divine power of Zeus. Zeus dived into the thick fog, and the harpies roared at him. Thunder flashed in Zeus's eyes, killing intent appeared, and the banshee's figure collapsed immediately, turning into pure divine power, which was swallowed by Zeus. Zeus slaughtered monsters in the dense fog and strengthened his divine power. Divine power is getting stronger and stronger. One day, the thunder of Zeus shattered a huge sea monster with 9,000 tentacles, each as huge as the river Styx. His corpse turned into divine power, devoured by Zeus. Suddenly, Zeus heard a familiar voice. Zeus, come back. Zeus, come back. Zeus, come back. 3 blood-colored runes appeared in front of Zeus's eyes, and then turned into divine blood and disappeared. This is the voice of Métis, extremely anxious. Métis has always spoken in a calm and gentle manner. Why is she so eager? What puzzled Zeus even more was that Métis was connected with his mind. If necessary, Métis can pass the divine voice directly to him at any time. Why is she? Zeus' eyes hardened. I think of the gentle and beautiful Métis, and the carefree Eurynome. Zeus flew to Sea God Island. Zeus's divine power increased greatly. He controlled the thunder and returned to the beautiful Sea God Island in less than 10 days. The Sea God Island remained unchanged, with beautiful flowers and grass, a golden beach, and statues of the sea god couple standing on the island. It is still shrouded in ocean magic, but, approaching the island, Zeus felt a sad breath. It seems like something is happening on the island. Thunder flashed in Zeus' eyes. His eyes saw through the thick fog that surrounded the island, and he saw, on the island's highest peak, 2 goddesses nestled together, looking into the distance. One of them is gentle, generous and beautiful. She was wearing a red robe with a golden forehead, and a simple scroll floated behind her. She held a dagger in her hand, and her palm was dripping with blood, dripping on the ground. Next to her, a goddess in a green robe. Her face is petite and cute, as if seeing her will forget her troubles. There are white Pegasus and unicorns around her. Countless butterflies are flying around her, and flowers are blooming around her bare feet. It was Métis and Eurynome. Zeus saw that the corners of Eurynome's eyes were red, as if he had cried bitterly. Métis comforted her by her side, looking into the distance from time to time. Eurynome could weep. Zeus never saw Eurynome cry after he got to know her, because her godhead is joy and carefree. Even if she is unhappy for a while, she will forget it immediately and restore her beautiful smile. Zeus saw and comforted Eurynome, and Métis looked into the distance again, full of expectation in his heart. Métis picked up the dagger again and stabbed it into the palm of his hand. Divine blood flowed from her palm and turned into a whistle. Métis' hair was blown by the wind. She grabbed the whistle with both hands and blew it. The rune calling Zeus flew out from the whistle, pierced through the thick fog, and flew into the distance. Things are not simple. Zeus scanned Sea God Island with his consciousness, and he found that there were countless gargoyles above Sea God Island, with blue-black flames burning all over them. This is the symbol of the god King Cronus. During the short time I left Sea God Island, the gargoyle actually came over? Zeus' eyes hardened. Métis' firm expression was obviously waiting for him. Something happened. The nameless fire rose sharply from Zeus's heart, and thunder broke out. Insult Métis and Eurynome, and the thunder of Zeus will shatter them. Even God King. Zeus restrained his breath and entered the thick fog. Here is an explanation of the 12 titans. You don't need to remember their names. I will mark their priesthood names every time I write them out, and they will appear in future plots. The 12 titans are the children of the first generation of God King Uranus and the Earth Mother Gaia. The youngest child Cronus overthrew his father Uranus and established his own god court. 12 titans formed the court of Cronus. 1 Oceanus, god of the ocean, with sea serpents in his hands. 3,000 ocean goddesses were born, including the eldest daughter Métis and the youngest daughter Eurynome, adoptive father of Zeus. 2 Thesis, goddess of the sea. It was surrounded by black clouds, the wife of Oceanus, adoptive mother of Zeus. 3 Cus, god of shadows. The image is a pure shadow. 4 Phoebe, goddess of light, wife of Cus. The image is pure light. She gave birth to Asteria, the goddess of meteors, and Leto, the goddess of nurturing. 5 Iapetus, the pillar of the west. The image is a huge pillar connecting the sky and the earth. Atlas, the sky-sustaining Atlas, the father of Prometheus, the fire stealer. 6. Clementine, goddess of fame and fame, golden horn. Whenever she appears, 100,000 golden horns sound together. Wife of Iapetus, mother of Atlas and Prometheus. 7. Themis, blindfolded with blood-colored cloth, holding a scale and a silver sword, goddess of law, has betrayed the court of Cronus. 8. Mnemosyne, a pale girl with long eyes, long white hair, and thin body, goddess of memory and language. 9. Hyperion, the sun god. There is always a red flame burning on his body. The second generation of the sun god Helios, the moon goddess Selene, and the father of the dawn goddess Eos. 10. Thea, goddess of dawn, wife of Hyperion. The image is the dawn that illuminates the earth and drives away the darkness. 11. Cronus, black sun, the second generation of god king, the father of Zeus. 12. Rhea, Cronos' wife, the second generation of the earth goddess, mother of Zeus, always accompanied by 2 stone lions. Zeus hid his figure, restrained his breath, and approached Sea God Island. Numerous gargoyles patrolled and wandered nearby. Zeus saw that a thick fog had formed around Sea God Island. In the thick fog, there are countless blue and black flames, forming a wall of fire, surrounding the entire island. Zeus realized. It was this wall of fire that prevented Métis from communicating directly with her mind. That's why she used the divine blood rune. Zeus' divine body has been reshaped and is now black lightning particles. Boom! Zeus' divine body instantly shattered, black particles of lightning flashed, and easily passed through the wall of fire. Zeus, who passed through the thick fog, stepped onto the island. Thunder flashed in his eyes, and he saw a huge iceberg in the middle of Sea God Island, next to the palace made of coral. The palace has collapsed, exuding a biting cold air. The former daughters of the sea have all disappeared. Zeus restrained his breath and climbed to the top of the mountain. Neither Métis nor Eurynome felt his presence. He saw Métis' long hair and red robe fluttering in the strong wind on the mountain peak. Her skin was as white as snow, and her bright red lips shone. Métis had a bloody whistle in his mouth. "Sister, my father and mother have not come back. Soon, that big snake will come and force me to marry me. I don't want to go with him." Olunwomo's eyes were full of tears. She shook her sister's hand. Her voice was full of pleading. "Relax, Eurynome." Métis stared at the boundless sea, where the tide was surging. "If he comes again and wants to marry you, I will burn my source of divine power and tear that giant snake into pieces." A murderous intent flashed in Métis' eyes. "My sister's eyes are so scary." Métis' eyes became gentle again, and she looked at Eurynome. "It's all right, Eurynome. I called Zeus, and he will come back." "Damn Zeus." Eurynome puffed up her cheeks. "He said he wanted to go out to practice, and he has been away for so many years. Let my sister wait for her." Eurynome paused for a moment, with a gloomy expression, and continued, "I've been waiting for him too." Métis turned his eyes to the boundless sea again. "He'll be back, I'm sure. My source of divine power has also successfully condensed, but unfortunately I don't have the ability to fight." Eurynome bowed her head and crossed her knees. After the Titan Protoss advanced to the 3rd level of the middle god, the source of divine power would condense in their bodies. This is the foundation of their divine power, and it is also the concrete manifestation of their divine power. The source of Zeus's divine power has undergone several evolutions, and now it is 500,000 black thunderbolts. The source of Métis' divine power is the blue and clear fountain of life. The source of Themis' divine power is the judgment seat with the scales, the silver sword, and the book of the law. The source of Aphrodite's divine power is the dewy rose manor. And the source of divine power of Eurynome is a pasture with abundant water and grass. In the pasture, a river of honey flows. In the center of the pasture, a tree of joy blooms. There will be fruit on the tree of joy. The creatures who knock open the fruit can get their own happiness. Weak creatures will get extraordinary power, and lonely creatures will get prosperous and lively families. Ugly beings will be beautiful, and poor beings will be rich. This tree of life bears fruit once every 100,000 years. After Eurynome condensed the source of divine power, a small sapling appeared above her head, and the green shoots were very cute. But at this moment, Euronome was depressed, and her saplings were drooping down. Sister, it was so scary when the big snake came. The other sisters ran away or hid, only you and Sister Pranoa came out to help me. Sister Pranoa was swallowed alive by the big snake. Orinomo shed tears again, and her tears emitted fragrance and fell to the ground, attracting countless butterflies. Pranoa. The name brought back memories of Zeus. According to the records, Pranoa is the wife of one of the most famous gods in this god's domain, fire stealer, Prometheus. She is also one of the 3,000 daughters of the ocean god. Zeus had also seen her. She is introverted, wearing a dark green dress, with 3 colorful bubbles surrounding her. She usually locks herself in the bubble, sinks into the depths of the sea, and studies the fragments and knowledge left over from the ancient times. Sister, your killing intent just now is terrible. I don't want you to fight the big snake, don't burn the source of life, you will die. Euronome's tears fell drop by drop, and she held Métis tightly. Hand. Sister, when will Mom and Dad come back? When will Zeus come back? When they come back, they can lift the big snake's engagement gift, so. Métis lowered his head. Her voice was full of remorse and guilt. Father and Mother, they have gone to the palace of Cronus and will not be returning for a while. Doubt rose from Zeus's heart. The sea god couple who left Sea God Island, Orochi's engagement gift. What happened on Sea God Island? Thunder flashed in Zeus' eyes, and his eyes saw through time and saw the past. He saw that after he left Sea God Island and went to the junction of the ocean and the abyss to practice. Sea God Island was peaceful. Euronome stepped on the catwalk and quietly slipped into the mother's room. Thesis, the goddess of the sea, was wearing a dark blue dress, surrounded by dark clouds, and there was the sound of water flowing every time she took a step. She is distributing divine dew to her 3,000 daughters. This is a lot of work, and it is a job that must be done every day. Mom. Euronome blushed instantly when she saw her mother. Huh? Euronome. Do you want to steal the dew again? Thesis smiled softly. She felt sorry for the youngest daughter. No, it's not. Euronome bowed her head in a soft, inaudible voice. Mom, you used shells to calculate my marriage, didn't you? Euronome raised her head, and her little face showed a trace of longing and worry. Will I really be married off by a big snake? Are you thinking about this? Tethys smiled. My youngest daughter has grown up too. Auntie, are you sure? Euronome said eagerly. The fate of some creatures is fixed, while the fate of some creatures is not. Because the goddess in charge of fate has not yet been born, Tethys was a little surprised when he saw his daughter. When you were born, I calculated with shells under the full moon that you would indeed marry a big snake. But your fate may change. You do the math. You do the math. Thesis looked at his eager daughter and smiled softly. Good. Thesis grabbed her daughter and evaporated in the hull. In an instant, they turned into a rain cloud and landed on the ocean like rain. Over the ocean, the moonlight fills the air. Tethys turned over with one hand, and the sound of the tide was everywhere. 4 delicate shells appeared in her hands. The texture of the shell is delicate, the sound of the water in Tethys's eyes fluctuates, and the divine power rolls and disperses in all directions. She stared carefully at the shell in her hand. It was said in the prophesied vision that you would still be married off by the big snake. However, a thunderbolt appeared in the vision. A thunderbolt appeared? There was a trace of joy on Euronome's face, but then he frowned again. Will the big snake marry me? Thesis gently stroked Euronome's little head. Your fate will change, and Lei Ting is the proof. It's okay, child. If you don't want to marry Big Snake, your father and I will help you refuse. The divine power of Thesis surged and fluctuated, shaking the tide on the ocean. At least in this ocean, no god dares to challenge our authority. A smile appeared on Euronome's face. Thesis patted Euronome. Go back, Euronome. The ocean is dangerous. Tethys raised his head, his eyes looked into the distance. There were countless bluish-black spots of light burning in the night sky. There are more and more gargoyles, and I have a bad feeling in my heart. Oh. Mom won't go back. Euronome hummed in a daze. She had never cared about these gargoyles. Tethys looked into the distance. His face suddenly became serious. Clear seawater flowed from her fingertips, condensed into a scroll, and the sound of the rolling tide burst out from it. She handed the scroll to Eurynome with a serious expression. Eurynome. When Zeus returns, give this to him. Let's go. Don't try to open it to peek, your divine power can't open it. Oh, Lunome's mind was exposed, and her face was flushed. But seeing her mother suddenly become extremely serious, she agreed. She called out Pegasus, returned to the island, and looked back at her mother from time to time. Tethys floated above the moonlit ocean, watching the blue-black flames burning in the night sky. Is it really tonight? Tethys clutched the shell in his hand. Tethys had felt her destiny long ago, when she had taken Zeus and adopted him. That heavy and desperate sense of fate has become more and more intense recently. When she used shells to prophesy Eurinome's fate just now, she couldn't help but also prophesied her own fate. She saw her destiny on the lines of the shells. In the abyss, she was firmly imprisoned by ruthless iron chains and shackles, and she could never break free. Blue-black flames burned on the iron chains and shackles. But above the phantom she saw, there was also a thunderbolt. The abyss of Tartarus. Is the God King going to drive us into the abyss of Tartarus? Yes, Theseus. There was the sound of waves, and a huge wave rose from the ocean. Among the huge waves, the king appeared from it. He is dressed in a white battlesuit, wears a crown on his head, holds a scepter, and has a majestic face. His fingers are giant sea snakes. The ocean god Oceanus appears. Tethys looked at him calmly. I feel a terrifying divine power, with killing intent, approaching Sea God Island. My noble god of the ocean, you can feel it too. Oceanus nodded. My stupid brother, Cronus, has been tortured to the point of insanity by the Titan's curse. He finally sent an emissary. Here they come. The light spots burning with blue-black flames are getting closer and closer. 10,000 gargoyles, holding chains, descended from the sky. The leader is a gargoyle king with 4 pairs of bat wings and 100 blood-red eyes on his forehead. The gargoyles formed a circle, surrounding the sea god couple. I was commanded by the Black Sun, the ruler and guardian of this god's domain, the supremely glorious god king, to come to the sea of the far west and meet the servants of the gods, Oceanus, the ocean god, and Theseus, the sea god. The rough voice of the gargoyle ghost king is like a stone, and the blue and black flames burning around him represent the god king. The god king ordered you to go to the sacred Mount Olympus to discuss important matters. Gargoyle. You brought the decree of the god king. As a member of the gods, I should obey his orders, but why are you carrying chains and swords? Oceanus' solemn voice resounded across the sea. Does my stupid brother want to humiliate his brother? The sound of metal interlacing sounded, and violent blue-black flames burned all over the sky. All the gargoyles held up their chains. The blood-red eyes of the gargoyle king stared at Oceanos. The divine king's decree clearly states that if the members of the divine court are unwilling to abide by the decree, they will be brought back to the holy mountain with the chain of justice. How dare you call your filthy chains chains of justice? The king of gods defines justice, noble ocean god. The god king has gone mad. He can't control the curse has controlled him. Ocean god, you must not guess your god king. The flames on the gargoyle king's body were burning fiercely. Go to the holy mountain of Olympus and meet the god king. Or, be bound to the holy mountain of Olympus to meet the god king. Okay. Oceanos was furious. Surging waves rose from the ocean, and 10 huge sea snakes appeared. Over their heads Oceanus stood, majestic as the ocean itself. I left his divine court tens of thousands of years ago and lived on this island in the far west. Will he humiliate his brother when we meet again? Even the king of gods must not humiliate me, Oceanus roared. The sea snake opened its huge mouth, and spit out a sword of the ocean. Angry like a storm on the sea. Calm down, my noble god of the ocean. Theseus looked at her husband in a panic. You must not challenge the god king. The wrath of the god king will consume us. Don't worry, Theseus. The sea tide surged, and the seawater surged up, as if all the seawater from all over the world had gathered here. In the vast ocean, countless blue light spots floated up, and violent divine power emerged from the ocean and merged into the giant sword in Oceanos' hand. I want to kill this group of dirty gargoyles, and then go to Mount Olympus, and ask my brother, my poor god king, what he has been tortured by the curse. Boom! All the sea water erupted with a shocking sound, and countless streams of water exploded, surrounding Oceanos like a giant dragon. Dirty gargoyles, you don't respect me. Today, you will face the wrath of the ocean. Oceanos, you dare to challenge the god king. The rough voice of the gargoyle king sounded, and all the gargoyles raised the chains in their hands, and the chains were connected by divine power to form a huge net. The raging blue and black flames burned, covering the stars. The divine power fluctuated, and the sword of the ocean and the fire net of the gargoyle collided fiercely. Boom! Oceanus, one of the noble 12 titans, the god of the ocean. He and the sea goddess Thesis gave birth to 3,000 daughters of the ocean, and he is one of the ancestors of many gods of seas, lakes and rivers. Boom! His giant sword collided with the gargoyle's fire net, and the fire net collapsed instantly. The moment Oceanos drew his sword, countless waters rose up from the ocean, condensed into water swords, and violently shot at the enemy. The huge Excalibur was as swift as a gust of wind, tearing apart many gargoyles. They instantly shattered into pieces and fell into the sea along with the chains in their hands. Their corpses are like rain. Boom! The leader of the Gargoyle King was hit by countless water swords. He was beaten into white powder. Ocean god, you. Thesis looked at her husband in surprise. Among the 12 titans, Oceanus, the god of the ocean, was not as powerful as his brothers and sisters. He was no match for Zeus, the god of shadows, Themis with a cold expression, Iapetus, the pillar of the west, or Hyperion, the god of the sun. You have hidden your divine power, noble ocean god, my husband. Tethys looked at Oceanus, astonished like a sea tide. 10,000 gargoyles were burning with blue-black flames, which was the power given to them by the god king. They gathered together, and their strength surpassed that of ordinary upper gods. My beloved goddess of the sea, Oceanos looked at Thesis with a smile. The moment you carried Zeus back, I felt the shackles of fate descending on us. Since then, I haven't been cultivating my divine power for a moment. You have such majestic divine power. Plus me, maybe we can gain dignity in front of Cronus. Thesis looked at her husband in surprise. I will step into his palace step by step and ask where his madness comes from. Let's go to the holy mountain. The sea serpent of Oceanus turned into an ark covered with the scales of the sea serpent. Tethys stepped on the ark, and suddenly, the black space was illuminated, as bright as day. A flame spear burning with blue-black flames flew from the air, carrying terrifying divine power. The flaming spear was as fast as lightning, and Tethys felt confused, and she didn't even have time to react. The divine power of Oceanos fluctuated violently, and the sea surged up, forming 10 walls of water, blocking them in front of them. Then there was the sound of glass shattering, and 10 walls of water were shattered. The sea serpents of Oceanus appeared, and they stood in their way. The flame spear directly pierced the sea snake, and the blood of the snake violently gushed out into the sky, splashing Thesis all over. Then, there is no hindrance. Oceanus was pierced by the lance of flame, and the lance of flame stayed in his divine body. A blue-black flame burned his divine body. Fear and death exploded in Oceanos' pupils, and he was burned to ashes before he even had time to cry out. Boom! The moment Oceanos fell, the entire ocean of God's domain began to tremble. They set off monstrous waves and submerged the islands in the sea. The seawater was no longer clear and became turbid. Both Oceanus and Thesis were the gods of the sea, and the god Oceanus fell, and the sea fell into chaos. Tethys was almost stunned by what happened in front of her eyes. She instinctively mobilized her divine power and tried her best to calm Haiyong's anger. The flaming spear that burned Oceanus to ashes turned into an illusion of the god King Cronus. He grabbed Tethys, and the scythe in his hand was burning with flames, cutting directly into Tethys's eye socket. Divine blood surged and flowed from Thesis' eye sockets. No, no! Tethys's screams resounded over the sea. Her divine power instantly turned into a blue pearl, and flew towards the direction of Mount Olympus whistling. Tethys lost all her divine power in an instant, and her current strength is not even as strong as a fish. The moment Tethys lost his divine power, the oceans completely lost their masters and fell into chaos. Theseus's face was covered with blood, and one of her eyes was gouged out by Cronus. Without you, wouldn't my court of God be able to control the ocean? Cronos put down Theseus, and a majestic voice sounded. This is a vision of Cronus. Even if it was just an illusion, the terrifying divine power still crushed Oceanus and Theseus. Uncontrollable fear occupied Tethys's heart. She trembled all over, knelt down involuntarily, and chanted the name of the god king. The curse is about to demonstrate its power, and my court of God is facing overthrow. The 12 titans should return to the holy mountain and surround me, so that my glory will shine forever in this god's domain. If you are not loyal to me, waiting for their death, it will be the wrath of the god king. The vision of Cronus spoke in front of Tethys. Tethys, your husband disrespected the god king, and he was punished. Do you want to follow in his footsteps? Honorable god king, I am willing to obey your edict and go to the holy mountain of Olympus. You were arrogant before and tried to betray the court of God with your husband. I ordered you to lift up the heavy iron chains and wrap them around your neck and back. Carrying this heavy shackle, you came to my court of God step by step. The unmistakable voice of Cronus rang in Tethys's mind. The vision of Cronus disappears. At the same time, all the gargoyles that had been killed before were resurrected. They bound Theseus with chains and threw her heavily on the ground. You were already a sinner of Olympus, Theseus. You have no divine power. You have to carry this 10,000 catty chains, walk to Olympus, and pray for the forgiveness of the god king. Tethys vomited blood from the mouth under the weight of the heavy chains. Her clothes were stained red by her husband's blood, and she lost one eye on her beautiful face, and there was still a flame burning in the eye socket, which made her want to die in pain. You must not rest, you must not stop stepping. Otherwise, the fire whip in my hand will hit you. This is the punishment for your contempt for the god king. The gargoyle king stared at Theseus with blood-red eyes and said indifferently, Yes, great envoy of God, I will go to Olympus to make atonement to the god king. Carrying a heavy chain on his back, Tethys went to Olympus step by step. As Oceanus burned to ashes and Theseus's power collapsed, a pair of huge green eyes opened from the ocean a million miles away. It's time to go to Sea God Island and marry my bride. That night, Sea God Island, above the highest mountain peak. The wind howled, blowing Métis' red robe. She opened her beautiful eyes and looked out of the island in horror. Because of the source of her divine power, Métis only needs to sleep for a birdsong every year. After Zeus left, she was on the mountain every day, looking into the distance. With a movement of her mind, she can communicate with Zeus, but she rarely contacted Zeus for fear of disturbing his cultivation. And when the gargoyles descended, the flames on their bodies ignited a thick fog that surrounded the island. Thick fog sealed off the island, and Métis could no longer communicate with Zeus. Then, she saw her father being stabbed to death by Cronus, a spear of flame thrown by him from thousands of miles away. Seeing that her mother's divine power was deprived, she shouldered a heavy chain and went to the holy mountain of Olympus to plead guilty. Tears flowed from Métis' eyes. Calm down, Métis, she was telling herself. Her divine power kept surging, and she wished she could rush to rescue her parents immediately, but the terrifying flame spear made her understand that it was a power far beyond her imagination, and her divine power could not even meet the flame spear. You are the eldest daughter, you should be calm, and take care of your younger sister. Métis wiped away tears. Her beautiful eyes were flushed, but at this moment she regained her calm face. I can't tell my sisters about it. I can't let the island of fear spread. Especially the youngest sister, Eurynome. Thinking of her, Métis' heart ached. Think on the mountain all night until the sun rises, and the red sun shines above the sea. That is the sun god Hyperion driving a chariot of flames, flying from the gate of Olympus to the extreme west. The ocean has also returned to calm at this moment. Maybe Cronus appointed a new sea god, or maybe he took charge of the ocean himself. Métis descended the mountain, and she saw Eurynome waiting for her at the foot of the mountain. Sister, I have good news for you. Good news? Métis forced a smile on his face and asked softly, What good news? That's it, sister, do you remember what my mother prophesied to me? Remember, you will marry a big snake on your birthday. Métis' complexion changed, and the pages of the Book of Wisdom floating behind her flipped. You were born on a full moon night, and the next full moon night, 3 days left. Yes. Orinomo smiled sweetly. I went to my mother last night and asked her to prophesy for me again. She suddenly whispered. Although it was prophesied that I would still marry the big snake, but there was a thunderbolt. Thunder? Métis was startled. Well, I don't want to marry a big snake. My mother said that if a big snake comes, she will help me drive it away. I won't marry a big snake. It turns out that fate is arranged like this, Métis muttered to himself. The father died, and the mother's divine power was exhausted, and the big snake came to propose marriage. Métis' heart ached. She looked at the ignorant Euronome in front of her, and hugged her in her arms. Sister, why are you crying? Orinomo, who was hugged tightly, was at a loss. The big snake comes at night. The sea water rose, and amidst the huge waves, a giant snake swam from the other side of the ocean. He floated up from the surface of the water, holding a huge ice cube in his hand, and the cold air was overwhelming. When the big snake came ashore, he turned into a snakehead and a human body, tall and tall. He was wearing an armor covered with green scales, and there were a row of holes on his arms, which opened and closed, as if breathing. Great ocean god, goddess of the sea, daughter of serpents, son of Echidna, great viper, come to your islands. One of your daughters will be my wife. Today, I dedicate, give me a sincere gift and come to propose marriage. The ice-cold voice of the big snake sounded like water flowing in the deep sea. The ice cube in his hand exudes a dazzling brilliance, like a gem. The big snake's hand sent it lightly, and the ice cube flew to the center of the island. Boom! Under the heavy pressure, the sea god palace collapsed. The cries of the daughters of the sea resounded across the ocean. They jumped into the sea, lying on the deepest part of the seabed, looking up in horror, listening to the movement on the shore. On the beach, there is only a red-robed goddess, holding a huge bow, facing the big snake. The moonlight shines on her beautiful body. Hidden behind her was a goddess in a green robe. She timidly stretched out her head and looked at the terrifying big snake. Euronome, go back quickly. Métis' voice was as calm as water. Fate tells me that the green-robed girl behind you will be my wife. Who are you? The big snake said coldly, spewing green poisonous mist from its mouth. You are not welcome here, big snake. Go back quickly. Métis' divine power burst out. Layers of divine power turned into waves and spread around. I have sent a gift to propose marriage, which shows my sincerity. You didn't return the gift, but you didn't agree to her marrying me. I will regard it as a humiliation to me. The green snake eyes of the big snake stared at Métis. Goddess, I am the daughter of the snakes, son of Echidna. I have sharp claws and venomous blood, and my wrath calls plagues. The hole in the snake's arm opened, and a green poisonous mist spewed out. Métis' complexion changed, and her divine power turned into a protective water curtain, covering her side. Her divine power fluctuated violently, and she felt the poisonous gas of the giant snake merge into her divine body. The poisonous mist mercilessly broke her water curtain. Métis knelt down in pain. She covered her mouth and nose, coughing blood from her mouth. Eyes, nose began to bleed, dripping on the ground. The poisonous mist cleverly bypassed Orinomo. Sister, sister. Olunome eagerly took her hand. Goddess, you are only at the 8th rank of the middle god. In front of me, your divine power is not worth mentioning. Zeus once helped Métis to advance to the 7th rank of the middle god, and Métis cultivated to the 8th rank alone. However, the divine power of the middle god is compared to the upper god, just like the foam in the sea is compared to the bright moon in the sky. Orochi is far stronger than her. Métis raised her head, her face was pale and bloody. How can you give up your engagement? If you can return my engagement gift to me. The big snake pointed to the iceberg bursting with cold air in the island. Métis was silent in his heart. This is deceiving oneself to be weak in divine power. She couldn't lift the iceberg as heavy as a million whales. She gritted her teeth, the veins in her pale fingers popped out, and she clenched fiercely, trembling all over. I will come at night after 3 days and take her as my wife. If you dare to stop me, I will swallow your limbs. The snake's icy language exuded terrifying divine power. He opened his mouth, holding 3 colorful bubbles on his tongue. Your sister Pranoa attacked me with her ridiculous power when I came ashore. Now, she has been swallowed by me." The thunder in Zeus' eyes disappeared, and he opened his eyes. Zeus has seen what happened in the past. He no longer hides his divine body. He summoned up his divine power, and the color of the sky and the earth changed, as if all the thunder in the world were ringing here. Holding a blood-red whistle in her hand, Métis, whose red clothes were flying in the strong wind, trembled. She turned her head and saw Zeus. There was a smile on the corner of her mouth, but that smile was quickly hidden by her. Métis' voice was still gentle. "Zeus, you are back. Zeus, are you back?" Euronome turned his head and saw Zeus. Her delicate face was covered with tears, she trembled all over, and then cried again. But the moment she saw Zeus, the whole body radiated light, illuminating the surroundings. The saplings above the head also regained their vitality, exuding the breath of life. "Why did you come back so late? How could you come back so late?" Euronome was crying, and her little fist hit Zeus one after another. "Woo!" Euronome finally fell into Zeus's arms and cried bitterly. "Well, Euronome, you are very tired, go and rest." Zeus is actually not very good at dealing with the character of Euronome. She is too tired. Zeus' fingers fluctuated with divine power, gently pressing on the top of her head. Euronome cried less and less, and finally fell asleep. Zeus summoned a thundercloud and supported her on it. Euronome weighs as light as a blade of grass. Her tears were still wet, and she fell asleep on top of the thundercloud, with a sweet smile on her lips. The thunderclouds carried Euronome to the sky, where she could sleep peacefully. When Zeus saw Métis, her palms were still dripping with divine blood. Seeing that Zeus was staring at him, Métis smiled slightly. "It's okay. The island is covered by the thick fog of gargoyles, and I can't communicate with you, so I can only use my blood to make a whistle. Fortunately, there is time." The messenger of Cronus attacked, the ocean god Oceanus died, Theseus lost all his powers, and the serpent proposed marriage. So many things happened in a short period of time, and Métis protected her sisters, waiting for the arrival of Zeus. After Métis expelled the poison of the serpent, his divine power was weakened. But Zeus's eyes sparkled with thunder, and he saw a new spring appeared next to the fountain of life, the source of Métis' divine power. This is a sign of advanced divine power, and the source of divine power has changed. The spring is gurgling outwards, and the power of wisdom fluctuates faintly. Her fountain of life represents the power of the daughter of the sea, while the fountain of wisdom represents the emergence of the second godhead, the goddess of wisdom. Zeus, who was familiar with Greek mythology, understood that Métis was the goddess of wisdom in later generations. She will advise Zeus' court, and, in a short time, she will help herself come up with a plan to fight against the god King Cronus. Métis, although your divine power is weak now, have you felt the change in your divine power? Métis showed a surprised smile. Zeus, you can see it. After advancing to the 8th level of God, a new spring appeared next to my fountain of life. It exudes different divine power, which makes my ears clear. Mu Ming. I tried my best to hit its bottleneck, but I have been unable to break through. The holy bell of awakening floated out of the thundercloud, exuding astonishing fluctuations of divine power, which merged into Zeus' fingertips. Métis, close your eyes and see yourself as the source of your divine power. I will help you advance. The holy bell of awakening made a holy bell, resounding across the island, and the vast and pure divine power condensed in Zeus' fingertips, emitting a strong light. Zeus pressed his finger to Métis' forehead. Huh! Métis took a deep breath, and suddenly, she felt the spring gushing out explosively. The power of wisdom gushed out from Métis' body, and Métis opened her incomparably clear eyes. At this moment, she rose out of thin air, and her 2 toes touched 2 springs. Intense divine power burst out with her as the center. On the island, all the withered flowers bloomed, and the leaves were green enough to drip water. Some birds and insects, after being impacted by her divine power, also exploded with power in their bodies, awakening their sanity. Métis fell to the ground slowly. Her injuries had fully recovered, and she had successfully advanced to the 9th level of the middle god. For example, she was only 1 step away from reaching the top of the upper god. Zeus. I have known you for so long, but you are still mysterious in my heart, as if I met you for the first time. Métis felt the amazing divine power erupting from the god's body, you helped me break through the bottleneck in advanced step. Métis was extremely loyal and loving to Zeus. Even in the historical records, Zeus devoured Métis alive. She willingly merged with Zeus and became his wisdom. The improvement of her strength is of great benefit to Zeus' court. Métis slowly landed on the ground. After advancing to the 9th level of the middle god, she looked even more beautiful. Her white skin and red lips were as delicate as Aphrodite's rose. Métis, long time no see, we. Okay. Métis' eyes were as gentle as water, and she held Zeus's hand. In an instant, Métis turned into a mouthful of crystal-clear spring water, in which countless flowers, aquatic plants, gemstones, and schools of beautiful fish swam. Zeus sank into the spring and felt its gentle current. Zeus was fully relaxed in the spring water, and Métis also fell into a deep sleep. The peaceful night passed, and the sun rose from the other side of the sea. Métis was still asleep, and Zeus sat upon his thundercloud, contemplating himself in his divine form. In the source of divine power, 500,000 black lightning bolts violently fluctuated. Practicing the secrets of Chaos God's breath to achieve the 3rd level of the upper god, the 2nd level of the Chaos body training secrets, 4 thunderbolts refined with 3 shackles, and Aegis, the shield of Zeus refined with 15 shackles. The spear of liberty with a fatal blow. In the past seen by Zeus, the great poisonous snake, the son of Echidna, the big snake, is only the 1st order of the upper god, and he poses no threat to himself. But his mother was famous and powerful. Echidna, the mother of monsters, she will be the confidant of Zeus in the future. Echidna's lineage is extremely noble and powerful. After Cronus overthrew Uranus and established his own divine court, Gaia, the 1st-generation Earth Mother, left her priesthood. She combined with Tartarus, the abyss body, and gave birth to Echidna. According to the records, Hydra, the poisonous dragon Hydra of the deep sea, Radon the dragon guarding the golden apple orchard, and countless monsters in this god's domain are all children of Echidna. And, in the hereafter, she will usher in her terrifying husband, the ancestor of all monsters, Typhon. Legend has it that Typhon has the heads of all creatures in this world, with a human head in the middle. When he roared, all the other heads roared together, and countless terrifying howls mixed together, making all creatures terrified. He challenged the authority of Zeus, took his wife and countless terrifying monsters, and attacked Olympus. This is the 3rd great war in the history of Olympus. According to records, there were 5 great wars in Olympus. The first time was when Cronus beheaded Uranus and made him the sky itself, a battle that separated the sky from the earth. The second time was the Titan War, where Zeus challenged Cronus, overthrew his god court, and established a new god court. Because most of the participants in this war are Titans. The third time was when Typhon, the leader of all demons, challenged Zeus, the battle between the god king and the demon king. The fourth time is the battle of giants with dragon tails challenging Zeus. The fifth time was the Trojan War caused by the beauty Helen, who made the gods jealous of her beauty. In any case, Echidna was his confidant. Zeus clenched the thunder in his hand, he looked into the distance, and then looked back at his sleeping wife. Métis had white and almost transparent skin, bright red lips, and long eyebrows trembling slightly, sleeping soundly. Last night Métis. Zeus smiled, but now is not the time to reminisce. Zeus. Accompanied by crisp screams, a figure jumped from the sky into Zeus' arms, with sea-blue hair, eyes shining like stars, a round face with a bit of baby fat, and a strong floral fragrance emanating from her body. Brother Zeus. Eurynome kissed Zeus's forehead fiercely, smiling all over her face, and the sapling on top of her head trembled. Zeus. There is a big snake who wants to marry me. Drive him away quickly. My sister fought with him and lost. Zeus, you have to avenge my sister. Zeus smiled in his heart. Eurynome deserves to be the goddess who gave birth to the three graces, representing the joys of the world. Any sorrows in her heart will soon disappear. Yesterday, my face was covered with tears, and I cried miserably. According to the ugly way of saying, is it also called heartless? Zeus complained in his heart. But with her, Zeus was always very happy indeed. By the way, Eurynome raised a finger, and a white daisy bloomed from the fingertip. A daisy bloomed, and a scroll jumped out of it, falling into Zeus' hands. The scroll drums without wind, and the sound of rolling waves and tides is heard, containing the power of the majestic ocean. I went out with my grandma that day to tell fortunes under the moonlight. Grandma suddenly gave me this scroll and said that I must give it to you, and that peeking is not allowed. Euronome was full of curiosity, and moved her small face closer. I can't open it myself. I dare not tell my sister, for fear of being scolded by her. Zeus, open it and see what's inside. Zeus took the scroll, and the pure power of the ocean was contained in it, which was indeed given to him by Theseus and Okeanos. Zeus smiled slightly, lightning and thunder flashed, separating Euronome. Adults, children don't care too much. Hey! Euronome was furious, raised his little foot and kicked over, unable to kick Zeus's thunder barrier at all. Zeus calmed down, and the power of thunder was poured into the scroll. The scroll slowly opened, and Theseus and Okeanos stood in front of Zeus smiling. Tethys was still wearing a long dark blue dress, surrounded by countless thunderclouds. Behind her, Okeanos sits on a coral throne, holding his rod of sea ruler. Zeus, Tethys said, and her voice seemed to transport Zeus back in time. Do you remember when you were born? On that night, your mother, the second-generation Demaria, desperately called out to me for help, begging me to save your life. Because before you, she gave birth to 5 children, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, were all swallowed alive by your father. You know, it's because of the Titan's curse, that a son must overthrow his father. Zeus was silent in his heart, of course he knew this. Theseus and Oceanus saved their lives and raised them. Over the years, they gave themselves love, and Zeus respected them very much. But, continued Tethys's sea-like voice, from the day I rescued you, a chain and a lightning bolt appeared in my destiny. I know that chain means that I will be imprisoned, and that lightning bolt, I still don't know what it means. My destiny picture is pitch black. It seems that I will be killed. Oceanos smiled. Our destiny is insignificant. We dared to deceive the God King and save you because the God King has no way. Oceanos continued, Zeus, open your eyes and see, in the court of gods, there are only a few gods. There is not even a law in the world. The voice of injustice is heard all over the earth. There is only day and night in the world. Cold places are always cold, and hot places are rough deserts. On the earth, there are only native life forms such as nymphs, sirens, mermaids, and giant spirits. We don't know how to solve all kinds of problems in the world, but we know that you are hope, Zeus. The words of Oceanus and Theseus fell on Zeus's heart like a heavy burden. Create the changes of the 4 seasons, create human beings, and create laws to regulate the behavior of the world. Zeus muttered in his heart. These are also things that Zeus wanted to do, but before that, to overthrow the court of Cronus. Zeus, we feel the anger of our brother, the god King Cronus, is burning. The shackles of fate have come to us, and we will not sit still, but when fate comes, we will gladly accept it. What we are worried about, only our daughter. Zeus, among my 3,000 daughters, our eldest daughter Métis and younger daughter Euronome are the ones we love the most. I know that they are also in love with you. Zeus, here, we will betroth them to you together. When you obtain the position of God King. Oceanus raised the baton of sea dominion in his hand, and it fell on Zeus' shoulder. Although it was only an illusion, Zeus still felt the scepter in his hand tremble slightly. Please bring them happiness and peace. The voice disappeared, and Oceanus and Theseus disappeared. And the battle of the Ocean Royal Command fell into the hands of Zeus. Zeus realized it in his heart, and this is their testimony. But, when ascending to the throne of God King, Zeus smiled wryly. Perhaps, Oceanus and Theseus, like all parents in the world, always hope that their daughters can get the best destination. Not a God King, not worthy of their precious daughter. I will keep my word. I will build my own divine court, become the king of gods who rule the world, bring order to all things, and create human beings. Then, I will hold a grand wedding to marry Métis and Euronome. Zeus swears into the distance. Suddenly, the dark clouds in the distance dispersed, and a brilliant rainbow appeared. The sacred song covers the earth, which is the sign of the oath. When I got the position of God King, Zeus lifted the thunder barrier, and the first second it was lifted, he heard Euronome's thunderous cry. Wow, sister, Zeus bullied me again. Euronome sat on the ground, her feet kept beating the ground, and she burst into tears. Among the tears, there are golden jellyfish and swimming fish. Métis was beside her, smiling helplessly. Seeing Zeus appear, Métis hugged Euronome with a doting face, and looked at Zeus. Zeus, what happened to her? Why are you crying so much? Zeus coaxed her well, and promised to take her to play at the end of the ocean in the future, so that Euronome stopped crying. Euronome wanted Zeus to hug her again and act like a baby, but seeing her sister's pale face, she didn't dare. Zeus and Métis strolled on the island, discussing recent events and plans for the future. Euronome was still listening, but then he felt very impatient, so he found an excuse and went to the beach to play. Zeus summoned a thundercloud to protect her in the dark. The two walked towards the former sea god palace, and a huge iceberg stood in front of them. In the past, there were endless laughter, and the sea god palace, where the daughters of the sea came and went all day long, has been smashed into powder by icebergs. Although many days had passed, Zeus still smelled a faint smell of blood. On that day, many daughters of the sea were crushed to death by this iceberg. There was a slight chill, penetrating to the bone. The vegetation near the iceberg was frozen to death, and Métis' face turned pale. The iceberg was so tall that it blocked the sun, and the two of them looked up at the top of the iceberg under the shadow. This is the gift that the snake came to propose marriage that day. Métis gritted his teeth and said in a low voice. Horrible scenes from the past emerged in her heart. As her elder sister and the eldest daughter of Sanshinhai, she tried her best to behave calmly, but she still felt extremely fearful in her heart. At the beginning, the tip of the iceberg appeared in the distant ocean. Then the iceberg became bigger and bigger, as if Sea God Island was drifting towards that iceberg. Finally, a monster with a height of tens of meters, covered with green scales, and emitting poisonous gas came ashore. With a snake head, he held up the iceberg with only his right hand. He threw the iceberg lightly, and a huge iceberg crossed the sky and smashed towards Sea God Island. The screams of the daughters of the sea resounded through the sky, and they all jumped into the sea to escape for their lives. Only one, Pranoa, used colorful bubbles to attack the big snake, but was swallowed by the big snake. Then there was the battle between Métis and the big snake. The poisonous gas of the big snake easily defeated Métis, and he left a date to come to perform the marriage. That was the most humiliating and terrifying moment in Métis' life. Zeus, can you defeat him? Zeus felt that Métis was looking at him, with sadness and expectation in his eyes. If it doesn't work, we'll take Euronome and the other daughters of the sea, abandon this place, and flee to the end of the ocean. Zeus smiled. Métis Bingshui is smart and has already figured out a way out. This is not to blame for her, because after practicing the profound truth of chaos, her divine body has been granulated, and her divine power is extremely solidified and restrained. It is difficult for outsiders to feel Zeus' true strength. Métis, this is Sea God Island, the place where you were born, your home. We're not going anywhere. Zeus smiled and aroused his divine power. In an instant, dark and deep black thunder surged violently around Zeus. He flew into the air with a majestic expression like a king, his golden hair fluttering high, and the terrifying coercion swept through the storm. The center spreads out. The thunder appeared in the hands of Zeus. He held the thunder and flew high above the sky. 4 phantoms appeared behind him, each holding a thunder in his hands. The thunder was like fluid, as if it was alive, violently trembling in the hands of Zeus, exuding terrifying divine power. A dazzling golden shield surrounded Zeus, spear of liberty. With a movement in Zeus's heart, a spear came out of thin air. With a fierce scream, its body shape changed continuously, and it turned into 100,000 spears, spreading all over the air, covering the sky and the sun. Zeus, you. Métis' face was pale, and the gust of wind brought by the berserk divine breath made her unable to open her eyes, and she almost couldn't stand still. She stepped back step by step. Zeus, how strong is your strength? The 3rd level of the upper god. Zeus restrained his divine power and slowly landed on the ground. In fact, Zeus's 3rd level of the upper god was cultivated from the profound meaning of the divine breath of chaos, which was much stronger than ordinary upper gods. When is the wedding date proposed by Orochi? Just tonight, when the moon sets. Okay. Zeus looked serious. He pulled Métis up and jumped onto the iceberg. Zeus took Métis' hand and looked at the vast sea in the distance. "We'll wait for him here. I will kill him with my own hands. I will use his death as a gift for you when I return." The moon gradually rose from the distance, and the illuminated sea was white. Euronome was also tired from playing, and at this moment she snuggled up to Métis and fell asleep peacefully. "Here we come." Métis grasped Zeus' hand tightly. Well, the loud horn sounded over the sea, and in the distance, a rosy red light was revealed. It was a ruby mountain rising from the sea. In front of Ruby Mountain, 24 whales as high as mountains appeared. They spewed out high water columns, and their bodies were tied with golden chains, tightly binding Ruby Mountain. Well, the horn blew again, and countless harpies flew from the sky, with human heads and bird bodies, holding the horn with their claws, and tried their best to blow it. Numerous foams floated on the surface of the sea, and a total of 99 Naga guards landed. They had snake bodies and slid on the shore, holding a golden sword. The leading Naga guard captain held a long whip with barbs all over it. Ruby Mountain got closer and closer to Sea God Island, and Zeus discovered that it was not only whales that were dragging Ruby Mountain, but also countless mermaids. They were pale and scarred, with chains passing through their shoulder blades and firmly fixed on the Ruby Mountain. Swipe! Naga guard commander waved his long whip in the air, and the long whip exploded in the air. Hearing the frightening whip, the mermaids looked terrified, lowered their heads and tried their best to pull Ruby Mountain forward. "Speed up, mermaid slaves!" The Naga guards took out their whips and threw them at the lazy mermaids. Snapped! The whip hit the mermaids fiercely, and their beautiful faces showed pained expressions. There are barbs on the whip, which can easily tear off flesh and blood, and several mermaids were beaten to death with just a few blows. The screams of the mermaids resounded through the beach, and the blood stained the shore. On the top of the Ruby Hill there was a throne on which the serpent sat. He is tens of meters tall, has the body of a snake, and has blue scales all over his body. Every time he opens his mouth, countless green poisonous mist floats out of it. His hoarse voice sounded, accompanied by bursts of terrifying divine power fluctuations. "Daughter of the snakes, the daughter of Echidna, I, the great poisonous snake, follow the call of fate and come to Sea God Island to marry my destined wife." The big snake jumped down from Ruby Mountain and landed heavily on the ground. All the whales and Naga guards lowered their heads, not daring to look directly at it. And those mermaids rushed to his feet and licked his feet. On the one hand, this is to express loyalty to the big snake. On the other hand, the snake venom of the big snake has an addictive effect, and it is a tool to control the mermaid. "My mind is as hard as iron and cannot be changed. Proud goddess, do you still dare to stop me?" The big snake stepped on the beach and stared at the distance. On the iceberg, a beautiful girl in red was hugging a petite girl in green. Their long clothes were fluttered by the sea breeze, and they were so delicate and charming. It was Métis and Euronome. And beside them stood a blonde-haired boy. "You are?" The big snake frowned. He couldn't feel Zeus's divine power at all, but if it was a creature without divine power, it would kneel down in fear when seeing him, and would not look at him calmly. Serpents are bloody and brutal by nature, taking pleasure in enslaving and killing. What's more, he felt the contempt in the eyes of the young man in front of him. "Humble beings, after seeing a great existence, do you still want to maintain your tiny dignity and refuse to kneel down?" The big snake opened its huge mouth and sprayed out a thick green mist. The thick mist turned into a sharp sword and flew towards Zeus. "This is the great poison that Orochi is most proud of." After his mother Echidna gave birth to him alone, Echidna gave herself a poisonous stone of the beginning, embedded in the gallbladder of the serpent. It was the rough stone condensed from the chaos of the world when the world was created. When Echidna took out the poisonous stone and gave it to the big snake, the magic power emitted by the poisonous stone polluted the sea of millions of kilometers, and countless lives died because of his birth. Echidna would give gifts to each of her children and let them go out to live alone. With a sharp howl, the poisonous sword flew towards Zeus. "Zeus, it's dangerous." Métis was well aware of its power. Her divine power surged out and condensed into a huge bow, and she was about to help. Métis' divine power surged out, but it surprised the big snake. "I just fought against her not long ago, But she was only at the 8th level of a middle god. Why is she so powerful now? The poisonous sword flew in front of Zeus, and a wall of thunder appeared out of thin air, engulfing the poisonous sword, like a needle sinking into the sea, without sound. What? Big Snake's heart was shaken. He used 30% of his strength in this blow, thinking to kill the boy with one blow, and establish his prestige in front of Métis, but unexpectedly he dispelled it so easily. The big snake squinted his dark green eyes, staring at the young man in front of him, but still couldn't feel the fluctuation of his divine power. Humble creature. Who are you? The great serpent came to marry his wife. Why did you come out against it? You have no right to know my name, beast. Zeus' divine power exploded, and suddenly, the sky changed color, dark clouds covered, and thunder covered Zeus's body. His divine power carried the supreme majesty of the future god king. Even Métis, who had seen countless times, was still terrified. Boom! Zeus descended from the iceberg. He raised his right hand and used his fingertips to prop up the towering iceberg. Holding the thunderbolt in his left hand, he walked towards the big snake step by step. What, this is? Big Snake's heart was shocked. Even if he was born with supernatural power, he would never be able to lift the iceberg with his fingers, but what surprised him even more was the supernatural power of the blonde boy. Such a violent and profound power of thunder that contains extreme terror and coercion, this is. The big snake suddenly remembered what Echidna told him when he left his mother. You can act recklessly in this world because of your glorious bloodline and great divine power, but there is one person, you must not offend him. Because he is the great king of gods, Cronus. The terrifying divine power of the blonde boy in front of him reminded him involuntarily of that terrifying, ever-burning blue-black flame, the great divine king who ruled this world. Are you? Who are you from Kronos? Big Snake asked through gritted teeth. Since you feel the relationship between me and the God King, your life will never be spared, but I can tell you. Zeus unleashed all his divine power, and 500,000 black thunderbolts shone on the ground. The terrifying coercion almost made the big snake stop breathing, and what he heard made the big snake stand still on the spot, unable to move. I am his replacement. The terrifying power of Zeus has made the big snake lose its will to fight. Hiss. I originally planned to marry Eurynome, and then take away Métis as my concubine. 3,000 ocean daughters, I can choose as I wish, but now. For a moment, Big Snake's thoughts turned back and forth, and finally he gritted his teeth angrily. Exalted God, I have seen your divine power. In this case, I cancel my engagement and leave here. It's just a pity that my mother, Echidna, has always hoped to see my wedding. The big snake was confident and moved his noble mother out. The gods in front of him would not do anything to him. Let's go. The big snake looked livid, and turned its head. A mermaid crawled over, trying to lick the soles of his feet. The big snake kicked out angrily, smashing the mermaid's belly to pieces, and the ground was covered with blood. The mermaid's screams made the rest of the mermaids retreat, not daring to look up. You ignorant beast. Do you think this is a place where you can do whatever you want? Zeus's majestic voice came. You have offended the daughter of the noble ocean god, and you have offended me too. You should pay for the crime with your life. Zeus pointed forward with his right hand, and the iceberg on his fingertips flew towards the big snake. The big snake turned its head, and saw a huge mountain covering the sky and the sun, attacking with the power of thunder. Countless poisonous snakes flew in all directions, but a large number of poisonous snakes were smashed into powder by the iceberg. The remaining poisonous snakes reformed into the body of the serpent in the air. He was out of breath and looked sluggish, but his green snake eyes were full of venom, and he stared at Zeus firmly. Zeus, be careful. He has the original poisonous stone that can release the great poison. For the next plan, we need that poisonous stone. Métis communicated with Zeus with divine power, and her quiet voice resounded in Zeus's mind. If he is forced into a desperate situation, he may bite the poisonous stone and die with us. Avoid such a situation and get his poisonous stone. Zeus saw the Book of Wisdom behind Métis moving automatically with no wind, and the pages of the book were flapping. Zeus nodded. The big snake stared at Zeus resentfully, and the poisonous stones in the snake's gall rushed up its throat inch by inch. If the other party refuses to let him go, he will bite the poisonous stone and die together with the other party, polluting the million-kilometer ocean. Of course, if the other party let him go, he would immediately go back to look for his mother, let Echidna avenge himself, and smash the blonde boy in front of him into thousands of pieces. Then he would make Métis his servant of Lashan, pass chains through her shoulder blades and hands, and whip her with a whip until she died. Blonde god, I have shown my sincerity. If you kill them all, I can only commit this disrespectful crime and fight you to the death. The big snake felt the poisonous stone in the snake's gall, and was ready to bite it into pieces at any time it. All of a sudden, the big snake's pupils dilated slightly, and his body felt severe pain. Surprised, he found that his hands, feet, and divine body were pierced by countless tiny, almost invisible needles. Puff! This is? The big snake's eyes were stabbed blind, green snake blood burst out. He felt a terrifying thunder force, came to his side, grabbed his throat, and pinched it fiercely. The body was firmly locked by the power of thunder, unable to move at all. A smile appeared on the corner of Zeus's mouth. The Spear of Liberty is really easy to use. The Spear of Liberty is the divine spear that Zeus flew through the narrow gate in the vision of the shackles of Aegis. It can change its body shape freely and turn it into the most suitable fighting form for the moment. Just now, Zeus silently summoned the Spear of Freedom, which turned into countless invisible steel needles, piercing the serpent from all directions. Of course, Zeus could easily chop the serpent into powder by calling out the thunder, but then he would not be able to get the original poisonous stone. The big snake angrily twisted its divine body, trying to spit out the poisonous stone in the snake's gut, but Zeus's thunder force locked him firmly, and the divine body could not move at all. Shameless beast, your fate was originally to be smashed into powder by my thunder, and that would be a pity for your poisonous stone. Where is your poisonous stone? Zeus grinned grinningly, and the thunder in his hand turned into a sharp dagger, directly piercing the serpent's divine body. Puff! The big snake's belly was cut open, and Zeus grabbed it in with his hand, and pulled out the snake's gallbladder alive. The severe pain made the big snake almost die. He twisted his body with all his strength, all the sources of his divine power were extinguished. Blood flowed out violently from the wound, and his eyes gradually lost their luster. The blood flowed out, and the big snake died. Brother Zeus, sister, this. Métis and Eurynome flew to Zeus, and Eurynome said timidly while being held in Métis' arms. Hey, don't look. Métis stroked Eurynome's eyes with his fingers, and she immediately fell into a deep sleep. Zeus gave the snake gall to Métis. This is it. Métis stared at the snake gall, her fingers gushed out water, condensed into a short sword exuding cold air, and pierced into the snake gall. The blood in the snake gall spurted out, and a pure green stone exuding terrifying poisonous gas appeared in front of his eyes. Métis stared at it for a while, then opened his mouth to swallow the poisonous stone. There was a surge of green on her face, and her divine power fluctuated violently, immediately dropping by 30%. Scattered outside, the effectiveness of the poisonous stone is constantly decreasing. The source of my divine power is the fountain of life, which can be used to preserve this poisonous stone. This is an important step in our next plan. Cough. Métis' divine body trembled violently, and she couldn't help but knelt down on the ground, holding the ground tightly with her hands, as if she was enduring great pain. Métis, are you all right? It's okay, Zeus. Kill them. A moment later, Métis raised her face. Her face was pale and cold, and she looked into the distance, timidly peeping at the mermaids here. The Spear of Freedom summoned by Zeus just now killed all the big snake and his Naga guards, leaving only those mermaids. Those mermaids are innocent, they were forced by the big snake, why don't we let them go free? No, Métis said with a gloomy face, they saw us kill the big snake, if even one of them can't keep their mouth shut, it doesn't matter if they leak the news and let Echidna know, but you must not let your father notice something unusual. And they were all poisoned by the big snake, which was the way the big snake controlled them. If the big snake died, they wouldn't be able to survive. Sure enough, when the mermaids saw the big snake dead, they didn't run away cheering, but gradually gathered around the big snake's corpse, licking the big snake's venom, greedy like wild animals. Zeus shook his head, summoned the thunder, and chopped all the mermaids into pieces, leaving no one behind. Zeus didn't like to kill innocent people indiscriminately. However, on the road to becoming a god king, there will inevitably be various moments of difficult choices. He was already mentally prepared for this. Cough. Cough. Métis suddenly spit out a few mouthfuls of green blood. His face was extremely pale. Métis. You spit out the poison stone and let me destroy it. No, Zeus. That is a very important thing for future plans, and I must keep it well. Don't worry, my source of divine power will not be polluted by it. Zeus saw the source of Métis' divine power. In her fountain of life, a pure green poisonous stone was floating in it, and the poisonous power emitted was gradually restrained. Zeus. Métis stretched out a finger and tapped on the back of Zeus' hand. Métis' fingers were white and almost transparent. This is the very slight poison of the big snake. You feel it, and then you transform into a big snake, go to his lair, and kill all the creatures in his lair, leaving no one behind. Cough. Cough. Métis coughed up a few more drops of blood. She wiped the corners of her mouth, and looked at Zeus firmly. I can't go with you. I need to do my best to stabilize this poisonous stone. There are a lot of Naga living in the serpent's lair. Most of those creatures know that the serpent came to propose marriage, and they must be silenced. They must not let you father notice something unusual. Go. Go. Drop. Option 1. Go to the serpent's lair and slay all life in its lair. Reward. 10 pieces of source stones of supreme divine power. Option 2. Stay on Sea God Island and accompany Métis. Reward. Fire greatsword. Options appeared in front of Zeus. The source stone of supreme divine power contains abundant divine power, and each piece is equivalent to the sky garden formed by the condensation of divine power absorbed by Zeus before. The flame giant sword is the weapon used by the flame Jinn. It is composed of pure and never-ending flames and is a very powerful weapon. From the perspective of options, option 1 is obviously better than option 2, because Zeus, who has 4 thunderbolts and the spear of freedom, no longer needs other weapons. The source stone of supreme divine power can help Zeus's divine power to a higher level. Rewards, however, were not Zeus' main concern. After thinking for a moment, Zeus made a decision. I choose option 1. Zeus was very worried about Métis, but he stared at Métis' source of divine power with thunder. Her source of divine power was not polluted by poisonous stones, and Métis' life would not be in danger. Moreover, the anger and suspicion of God King Kronos has reached its peak, and any creature that can arouse his suspicion will be mercilessly killed by him. Zeus would never allow the news to leak out. At this moment, I can't compete with Kronos. Zeus summoned several thunderclouds for Métis to temporarily hide in, and then used the power of thunder to create a phantom that surrounded the entire island. In the thundercloud, every breath of Métis could be transmitted to Zeus's brain. If anything went wrong with Métis, Zeus would immediately come back to help her. Métis, I'm leaving, you protect yourself. Don't worry. Métis' pale face lacked a trace of blood. She grabbed Zeus' hand and pressed it on her lower abdomen. This is... Zeus opened his eyes wide in amazement. The divine power in Métis' belly fluctuated violently, pure and true, like a rising star in the dark night. This is your first child. I will definitely give birth to her safely. How could something happen to me? Zeus nodded. The child in the womb of Métis is one of the 12 main gods of Olympus in the future, the goddess of war and wisdom, the first blooming star, the guardian of the city of Athens, Athena. Go. I'm waiting for your good news. Métis closed his eyes, trying to control the poisonous stone in the source of divine power. Zeus turned into a golden eagle and flew out of the island. The serpent's venom on the back of Zeus' hand exudes faint fluctuations of divine power, which will guide Zeus to his lair. The ocean is vast, and even though Zeus's thunder is as fast as lightning, he still traveled for hundreds of days and nights. Finally, Zeus stopped on a calm sea. Is this the serpent's nest? The serpent's lair is deep under the sea surface, and there is a phantom formation formed by the condensed divine power, which cannot be found by ordinary creatures. But Zeus was born with a divine body, and he was burdened with thunder since he was born. His eyes flashed with lightning, and no illusion could hide from his eyes. Staring at the ocean for a long time, Zeus suddenly froze in place, then a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. I see. This is not only the lair of the big snake, but also the temple of the Naga clan. No wonder Orochi has so many Naga guards. After Cronus separated the heaven and the earth, He did not create human beings because he was afraid of the curse that the son would overthrow the father, because he was worried that the human beings he created would also be considered his sons. So between heaven and earth, there are only primitive creatures. Centaur, nymph, dryad, elf, mermaid, siren, giant spirit. And in the ocean, there is the existence of the Naga tribe. The Naga tribe is extremely strong, born with the power of the ocean, and can walk ashore. Their personality is even more brutal and bloodthirsty. They're born warriors. But the Naga tribe is not keen on fighting, their greatest interest is digging for treasures. In the vast ocean, the Naga cast countless bronze and marble temples, enshrining the most precious treasures they dug. Without further ado, Zeus pointed to the sky with one hand, and the power of thunder surrounded his fingertips. Suddenly, a huge thunder net condensed. I am the god of thunder, and all lightning is my believer. All thunder in the sky, east, west, north, and south, obey my command. Within a radius of 1,000,000 miles, no creature is allowed to enter or leave this sea area. Zeus flicked his fingertips downward, and the huge power grid, shining with golden light, rushed towards the sea. Immediately, this sea area was sealed off by Zeus. In his thundernet, Zeus could feel the churning of the water plants fluttering with the waves, and countless sea creatures whispering. Nothing that happened in this sea could hide from the eyes of Zeus. Lightning flashed, surrounding Zeus's body. In an instant, Zeus turned into a monster with a snake head and a human body, exuding green poisonous gas all over his body, and his scales glistened. The appearance is hideous and ugly, exactly the same as that big snake. This is Zeus' thunder transformation mystery. Unless the realm is far beyond Zeus, it will be impossible to see through. Zeus sank into the sea. Zeus easily broke the illusion set by the big snake, and a huge palace in the sea appeared in front of him. The whole palace is like a huge snake head with its mouth wide open, like an ancient sea beast crawling on the bottom of the sea, majestic and exuding terrifying coercion. The palace is made of black crystal and bronze. The two eyes of the snakehead are two gigantic ruby mountains. On the dark bottom of the sea, there is still a dazzling red light, like the red sun rising in the morning by the sea. The Sheku is wide open, which is the entrance of the palace. Zeus saw that around the palace, there were many bones and countless mermaids. Their shoulder blades were pierced by sharp chains and connected to the bottom of the sea, and they could not escape at all. Zeus sighed. The mermaid has a pure personality and is not good at fighting. To obtain divine power, the condition is extremely harsh. To be loved by other creatures. In the ocean, mermaids are the lowest status race, enslaved by countless creatures. I don't know how the task I entrusted to Mermaid Pure Pearl to unify the mermaid tribe is doing. There are tens of thousands of mermaids here, all of them are servants of the big snake. At this moment, they gathered together and were watching a punishment. Puff! The sound of whips cutting through water. A Naga guard tens of meters tall, holding a sharp knife and whip. In front of him, a mermaid was tightly tied to a pillar. She was bruised all over her body, her face was pale, and her face was full of tears, holding 3 little mermaids in her arms. Puff! The Naga guards whipped the mermaid. The whip had barbs, and several pieces of flesh and blood were thrown off the mermaid. The mermaid's screams resounded through the bottom of the sea. The rest of the countless mermaids all lowered their heads, covered their mouths tightly with their hands, and watched the punishment in horror. Mermaid Luju, do you know your crimes? The Naga guard asked sullenly, holding a bloody whip. The mermaid trapped on the pillar had already been whipped several times. Her face was pale and she was almost dying. Brother Weebing. I'm hungry, I can't stand it, so I went to steal the water plants over there. Brother Weebing, you see, I have 3 children and I want to raise them. The little water plants I give out every day, I can't eat enough. The 3 little mermaids were held in her arms, looking out curiously. They still don't understand what happened to their mother. The big snake doesn't like unruly servants, especially sophistry. The guard walked forward gloomily, holding a sharp knife, and stepped forward. Seeing the sharp knife in the guard's hand, the mermaid screamed in fear and twisted her body frantically. No, brother guard, please, forgive me. Master Big Snake, I know I was wrong. God, please save me, save me. Mermaid Luju's body was tightly bound by iron chains, and she couldn't move at all. You know the rules. I will gouge out your eyes, tie you up here, and let the fish and shrimps here eat up your body bit by bit. The process will last for several months, and your screams will it lasts for a long time, until you can't cry out at all. You still haven't died, your consciousness still exists, and you can feel the pain. The audience was full of sobs that were suppressed with all their strength. Countless mermaids covered their eyes, not daring to watch, but the pearls still flowed down one by one. Mermaid tears are pearls. Open your eyes and watch carefully. The guard was furious, he swung his whip fiercely, and whipped at will. Several mermaids were whipped to the ground, blood mist filled the air, and screams continued one after another. Your master is a great poisonous snake, he is your god. If you don't obey his rules, you will be severely punished. Open your eyes and watch carefully. The tied mermaid had already given up struggling, and she stared blankly ahead, with no expression in her eyes. At this moment, puff, a figure flew past, and a huge snake-headed monster appeared in front of the Naga guard. He grabbed the Naga guard, and thunder shone around him. Kacha, the Naga guard's throat was directly crushed. It was Zeus. Owner, humble mermaid, welcome the return of the great poisonous snake, and may the glory of the master shine forever in the world. All the mermaids present knelt down together with the Naga guards, their hearts thumping. The mermaids are very aware of their master, the big snake, who is cruel, bloodthirsty and extremely harsh, and will kill them for the slightest thing. Countless mermaids have died miserably under his hands. But what happened today, to save that mermaid, or do you think such a punishment is not cruel enough? Thinking of this, the mermaids trembled, but they could feel the smell of the venom on their master again, and they wanted to go up with an uncontrollable desire, praying for a little venom from the master to relieve the pain in their bodies. The snake's venom is an excellent tool to control the mermaids. Every few days, if they don't get the master's venom, they will feel the pain in their bodies and wish to die immediately. Zeus looked at the mermaid and Naga guards who were kneeling together, feeling emotional in his heart. He planned to kill all the creatures in the serpent's lair, including the mermaid. Originally, this had nothing to do with Zeus. But there was still a sense of compassion in my heart. Mermaids are weak and innocent, they never fight with other creatures, they live in shells all day long, only dare to come out at night to gather aquatic plants to eat. Could it be that being weak can be slaughtered by others? Weak, do not have the right and dignity to live? Some people may think that the law of the jungle is the law of heaven and earth. But according to Zeus, the world should not be like this. At least in the world he manages, the world shouldn't be like this. On the road to becoming a god king, there will be various moments of difficult choices. Zeus will not be bound by morality, he will do his best and use all methods to obtain the position of god king. However, Zeus will also help those helpless creatures. This is the goodness of Zeus himself. Moreover, Zeus already had a plan in mind on how to help these mermaids. Zeus faded away the phantom of the serpent and restored himself. His blonde hair fluttered high, and 500,000 thunderbolts shone at the same time. Your master, the big snake is dead, mermaids, you are free. The magnificent voice of Zeus resounded through the bottom of the sea. Pooh! The moment Zeus uttered his voice, countless thunderbolts burst out violently from Zeus' body, and all the Naga guards that came into contact were turned into coke. The spear of freedom appeared in Zeus's hand, turned into 10,000 giant swords, and slashed out. Pooh! Numerous heads flew up, and the green blood of the Naga clan gushed out. In a moment, Zeus beheaded all the Naga clan guards present in one fell swoop. The strong smell of blood is indelible. The mermaids looked at the king in horror. The violent divine power of Zeus set off a huge current, and the black thunder shone on the bottom of the sea. Great king! A little older mermaid finally summoned up the courage to speak after a while, are we really free? Zeus looked at him majestically. This mermaid seemed to be the most powerful among the mermaids present, and had the ability to approach the envoy. Yes, you are free. After finishing speaking, Zeus stepped into the hall without looking back. There is a powerful formation at the huge Sheku, which isolates the sea water. As soon as Zeus stepped into the hall, he immediately felt a shock. The divine power here is so strong, it is several times stronger than the outside. No wonder. The Serpent's Lair Palace is built on top of a Naga clan temple, and the Naga clan can rely on their instincts to search for treasures that were born when the world was created and are now lost in the ocean. Treasures born in the creation of heaven and earth contain powerful divine power. Stepping into the hall, golden light shines. The wide hall is filled with all kinds of gold, silver and jewels. Gold, silver, crystal clear diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, purple sapphires, especially in the main hall. A coral tree hundreds of meters high and shining with golden light. Coral trees are covered with all kinds of gemstones, which are extremely rich. Zeus raised his head, and the ceiling of the entire palace was made of a huge emerald stone, inlaid with diamonds and rose gold stones, shining like a starry sky. The dragon race is the most greedy and loves these shining treasures, and the snake and the dragon are of the same kind. No wonder the serpent collected so much gold and silver. With a wave of Zeus' hand, all the treasures floated up and poured into his own thundercloud. These jewels are not artifacts and cannot enhance their own strength, but their luxurious appearance and expensive price will still be useful in the future. At least you can decorate your own palace. After walking through the hall, Zeus came to the courtyard, and he stopped. Because there is a towering golden olive tree in front of you. The crown of this olive tree is like a tourmaline, the stem is like a scepter of a god king, and there are 11 golden olives shining with golden light on it. The flower types of this olive tree are different, and the same tree bears white daisies, blue cornflowers, pink roses and purple irises at the same time, and the stamens are like golden threads. Each golden olive exudes astonishing fluctuations of divine power, and the intense divine power condenses into many luxurious and elegant beasts, among which colorful rays of divine light shine. This is the golden olive tree. Looking at the treasure tree in front of him, Zeus' eyes were extremely hot. In Greek mythology, the most famous sacred tree is the golden apple tree brought by Earth Mother Gaia as a wedding gift in the divine marriage between Zeus and Hera. The golden apples on the golden apple tree triggered the fifth and final war in the history of Olympus, the Trojan War. According to legend, when the world was created, Chaos, the supreme and holy god of chaos, that is, chaos itself, had 13 golden seeds fall on the earth when she gave birth to Gaia, the Earth Mother, for the end. Gaia got the golden apple seed, planted the golden apple tree, and gave it to herself as a gift. But here, I saw another sacred tree, but I don't know how the big snake got it. The big snake planted the tree here and waited for the flowers to bear fruit. Unexpectedly, Zeus took advantage of it. The divine power contained in the golden apple is enough for an ordinary creature to directly advance to a high god. I don't know how much divine power this golden olive contains. However, this is not the place for experimentation. Zeus waved his hand, and the golden olive tree, including the land where it was planted, floated up together and entered his own thundercloud. The thundercloud of Zeus is so majestic and vast that even 10,000 giant trees can hold it. Great creature, I feel your majestic divine power. Are you there? Can you hear my voice? Just then Zeus heard a faint cry for help deep in the courtyard floor. Zeus felt a slight fluctuation of divine power, which seemed to be firmly imprisoned in the depths. This divine power carries the darkness and abyss of the deep ocean and the golden light of treasures. This is the divine power exclusive to the Naga clan. Thunder flashed in Zeus' eyes, and in an instant, he saw a majestic and huge phantom barrier appearing in front of his eyes. The barrier is very complicated, consisting of 60 small formations to form a central formation, 17 central formations to form a large formation, and these 3 large formations form the current phantom barrier. Orochi is willing to spend so much energy in order to protect his secret. Métis is in an unstable state, and Cronus messengers are watching everywhere in the world, and he can't slowly untie the magic circle. Chaos Bottle. A bottle containing the purest black appeared in front of Zeus. This was the reward Zeus had obtained when he broke the shackles of the narrow gate before, and it contained the majestic power of chaos. The power of chaos is the prototype of all power in the world, so it can be transformed into various powers for the use of living beings, whether it is cultivating the divine body, raising the rank of the gods, or forging weapons. Of course, it can also be used to break the phantom barrier. The majestic power of chaos spewed out from the bottle and poured into the phantom barrier. Boom! The barrier fluctuated and shattered instantly. Zeus saw a ragged girl hanging upside down from an iron chain. The girl was pale and thin, with scars all over her body. She has a snake's tail and a green snake's eye in her left eye. The iron chain was tightly locked on the girl's ankle, and blood dripped down from the ankle. Next to it are pokers, whips, nail chairs, and thumb grips. Apparently the young girl has already suffered from these punishments. Great God, I can't feel the power of the big snake anymore. Is he dead? The girl said weakly. Can you put me down? Zeus was unmoved. Orochi tortured her like this, but kept her alive. Obviously she knew some important secrets. I won't put you down until you answer my questions. Great God, please ask questions, I dare not deceive you. Who are you? My name is Shyasong of the Deep Sea, and I am the queen of our Naga tribe. I believe you have seen many soldiers of the Naga tribe outside, and they are all my tribe. Why did the big snake imprison you? It was we who discovered this place at first. We were attracted by the strong fluctuations in the power of the treasure of the gods here, so we came to build a huge palace, and dug the treasures in the ocean day and night. Finally, one day, we dug out a golden seed. But I didn't expect that when the treasure was born, a creature came to snatch it against the precious light, that is the big snake. His divine power is so terrifying, he defeated us, imprisoned me here, and threatened me with my life clansmen for him to enslave. Zeus was silent. It turned out that the big snake got the golden olive tree in this way. However, she did not tell the whole truth. If the big snake is only using her life to threaten her people, there is no need to punish her. The girl looked at Zeus and closed her eyes. Great God, I feel your divine power, it is so majestic and magnificent, and the thunder has the momentum to smash the universe. God, I feel that you are the god of destiny. Unlike the big snake, he can't see the light. She gritted her teeth. God, I know you doubt me for the same reason that the big snake doubts me. But apart from that golden seed, I have no other treasures to offer you. Our race is born with the talent to dig treasures. I am free, and I will serve you. You are a master worthy of entrustment. Zeus is the future king of gods. The king of gods is the shepherd, and all living beings are lambs. The king of gods shepherds all living beings in the world. Zeus God King Godhead has been revealed, so he has the ability to conquer people's hearts, just like Eurynomus, who was born as the god of pastures and water plants. Wherever he goes, water plants are lush and flowers are in full bloom. Shah wants to be free. She knows that she has no choice but to believe in Zeus. At the same time, she was overwhelmed by the terrifying aura of Zeus. This is the power of Godhead. I accept your request, Sia. Zeus said solemnly, that's why I want to see you betray God. As soon as the word, treacherous God, was uttered, Shi-Ya opened her beautiful pupils wide and looked at Zeus in surprise. Obviously, it was greatly shaken. Treacherous God. Sia bit her lips tightly. A look of determination appeared on her face, as if she had made up her mind. She said in a low voice. Okay, I will betray God, and then, I will believe in you. To rebel against the gods is to betray the gods one believes in. In this continent ruled by gods, it is disrespectful to betray the gods you believe in. It is the sin of sins, and the disaster of disasters. The Naga tribe, they believe in the god King Cronus. The Naga tribe is the original race of heaven and earth. When they were born, they signed a contract with Cronus when he opened up the world and opened up the world. When Cronus split the sky and the earth, the blue-black flame burned into countless light beams and spread throughout the world, which is the contract signed with the native creatures of the sky and the earth. The crown that fell from the sky is the proof. They believe in the King of Gods, and the King of Gods will bless them. If you betray the God King will bestow endless anger to burn it, which is God's punishment. The gods hate the creatures who betray their faith the most. Zeus looked at the girl in front of him indifferently. Betray your faith, Cronus, believe in me, I am your new god. Thunder flashed all over Zeus, and the terrifying divine power fluctuated, sweeping the girl like a gust of wind. Kneel down, betray your old master, and believe in me. Crack. The chains that bound the girl were broken at the same time, and she fell powerlessly to the ground with disheveled hair, terrified to the extreme by Zeus' divine power. Facing Zeus, she knelt on the ground. I, Sia, the song of the deep sea, here. She pointed at her heart with her two fingers, and swore to the void. I no longer believe in the king of gods, Cronus, on my soul. The moment these words came out, the earth shook, the sky suddenly changed color, the wind howled, and a majestic voice came from all directions. The terrifying king, Black Sun, the noblest of the 12 titans, the guardian and ruler of God's domain, Cronus appeared in front of Shia. This is the illusion of the contract signed by Cronus and Sea. You betrayed your god and blasphemed the believers. Cronus' angry voice resounded through the earth. You will be punished by God for this. Ah! A blue-black flame appeared out of thin air, igniting Shi Ya's right hand. Shi Ya screamed in pain. Her face was full of tears. She looked at her right hand tremblingly. She didn't try to extinguish it, because she knew it was the inextinguishable fire of the God King. Ah, ah! Shi Ya cried out in pain, watching her right hand being burned to ashes by the blue-black flame. There is a burnt smell in the air. Shi Ya's face was full of tears, and blood came out of her lips bitten. She collapsed on the ground exhausted, looking at Zeus in front of her. She covered her own blood with the index finger of her left hand, put it on her forehead, and murmured, I completely abandon all previous beliefs and allegiances, and will support and defend my god, Zeus. When Zeus sends his edict, I will fight for Zeus. When the order of Zeus comes, I will give up everything to fulfill his order. I hereby swear, and I swear from my heart, without any excuses. God help me. An ancient and mysterious document descended from the sky, and the name of Shia, Song of the Deep Sea, was written on it. Contract complete. Drop. The system beeps. You get your first follower. Your strength is thus increased. Oh, Zeus asked the direction-finding system curiously. Task is open. This task is cumulative. Surrender to your followers and gain their faith. Obtain a believer. 100 Supreme Source Stones gaining 1,000,000 followers. Lone Star in a pure white universe. Get 1,000,000,000 followers. Acquired hundreds of billion followers. Gain trillions of believers. Zeus realized it in his heart. This universe is the realm of the 5 gods. The world I live in is the Greek god system, and the other 4 worlds have their own gods. This will be a war of faith. The strength of the gods can be divided into 3 parts. One is the god position: angel, demigod, lower god, middle god, upper god, main god, god king, primitive god, and supreme god. Each god rank is divided into 1 to 9 ranks. One is the divine body. That is, the strength of the divine body and the majesty of the divine power it controls. One is belief in God. That is, the number of believers. The more believers there are, the stronger the strength of the believers themselves, and the stronger the strength of the main god. Zeus felt that there was a trace of power injected into his divine body. Very faint, but pure and true. Zeus turned thunder into a sword and pressed it on Sia's head. Your God will protect you. 1,000,000 miles away, on the holy mountain of Olympus. Sitting on the throne, the king, whose body was covered with blue-black flames, stood up angrily, and a terrifying aura erupted, filling the sky with infinite divine aura. Behind him is the vision of kings all over the sky, with scepters and swords floating in the sky, and rainbow lights shining on them. In the empty hall, apart from Cronus, there are only a few gods. To his left, there was a mass of pure black shadow and pure light. They are Kus, the body of shadows, and Phoebe, the goddess of light. Beside them, there are 2 young girls, one with meteor wings behind her, shining with the brilliance of the stars, the other with a black veil, a beautiful nose and red lips. They are the daughters of these 2 gods, the future goddess of meteors Styria and the nurturing goddess Leto. On his right, there is a god burning with red flames all over his body, and the goddess next to him is emitting a soft clear light all over his body. They are Hyperion, god of the sun, and Thea, goddess of dawn. Among the 12 titans, Themis has betrayed Kronos' court, and the second-generation mother Rhea no longer wants to attend the council of gods because of Kronos' atrocities of devouring children. The pale girl with long eyes, Namashine, records memories all day long and never participates in meetings. And the pillars of the west, Iapetus and her wife, the goddess of prestige, Clymene, guard the tree of succession to the west, and never participate in the meeting. Among the 12 titans, Oceanus, the god of the sea, has died, and her wife Thesis is kneeling on the hall at the moment. Tethys has completely lost her divine power, and her strength is not even as strong as a doe. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes were ragged, and her eyes were empty. Her eyes had already been gouged out by Cronus, and her face was extremely hideous and terrifying. Her limbs were bound by heavy iron chains. Carrying the heavy shackles, she crossed deserts, grasslands and rivers, and rushed to Mount Olympus day and night. Along the way, she was beaten to death several times by gargoyles, died of exhaustion, starvation or thirst several times, and was resurrected by Cronus to continue this endless journey. And now, the journey has finally come to an end. Beside Theseus, there is still a god standing. He is tall and fit, with a laurel wreath on his head, and behind him are 3 burning torches. He stared at Theseus silently, without speaking for a long time. He was the son of Iapetus, the pillar of the West, and the goddess of fame, Prometheus. He is his parents' representative on the Council of God. Although he is not one of the 12 titans, his strength and wisdom are not inferior to any titans. The blasphemer, the sinner, the prisoner, Tethys has an audience with the great god king. May the glory of God be immortal. Tethys stared at the empty pupils, and said numbly to the throne. Cronos was restless. He glanced at Theseus with disgust, and looked at the gods present. How to deal with her? My beloved brothers and sisters, please give me your suggestions. Where do you want any advice? Prometheus silently looked at Theseus, who was kneeling on the ground, thinking silently, this is clearly a threat. Oceanus and Theseus lived on the islands in the far west of this continent, and they had not set foot in Olympus for tens of thousands of years. And they annoyed Cronus, who killed ocean god and severely punished his wife, which was clearly for the other gods to see. See what happens when you defy Cronus. All the gods present frowned and looked at Theseus without saying a word. Tethys is their sister. Seeing the audience being speechless, Prometheus raised his head and smiled and said, May the glory of the god king last forever. Great god king, Theseus defied your destiny, and she deserves to be severely punished. But in my opinion, she was only punished by others. Because of her husband's bewitching, Oceanus has already died, but Theseus's life can be saved, thrown into the abyss, and let the 100-eyed giant and the 100-armed giant watch over him strictly. Cronus glanced at Prometheus and nodded. The ground in the hall split open automatically, and a dark abyss appeared, from which endless, desperate screams came. I sincerely thank the God King for the gift, and may the glory of the God King last forever. Tethys thanked numbly. She looked into the abyss with her empty eyes, dragged the heavy shackles, stepped forward step by step, and jumped down. The crack closed, and all the desperate screams and cries disappeared. Cronus sat on the throne, and suddenly a terrifying aura erupted. If death came to him, the fierce aura made the gods retreat step by step. Prometheus's pupils shrank slightly, and his heart jumped wildly. Could it be that the God King is not satisfied with my proposal? Cronos opened his eyes, and in his eyes, murderous intent was everywhere, and the life around him was cut off, and even his golden throne was reduced to dirt. The huge scythe that once separated the sky and the earth appeared in the hands of Cronus. A believer betrayed me. Cronos stared at the gods present. I can't control the location of the betrayer. I only know that he is there. Countless gargoyles burning with blue-black flames poured into the hall, flying around Cronus. Cronus pointed his finger at one of the gods present. The gargoyle will lead you there. Kill the traitor, and kill his new faith.